Man, that that song not having like a slow fade out is really funny. It just kind of randomly stops. Oh my goodness. I'm a little late for stream. If you didn't know, I was supposed to. It was the schedule said it was supposed to start at 7. It started like 5 minutes late because I legitimately did not have a thumbnail. Like, I literally sat down. I was like, "Oh, it's fine. Like, I can make a thumbnail in I don't know, like 5 minutes or whatever. Like, I'm pretty good at making thumbnails very quickly." And then I remembered that this was an art stream, so I had to put like some kind of very crude doodle as like a, oh, this is what we're drawing today. Uh, and it took me a lot longer to do than like the 5 minutes I allowed myself for, the actual freaking thing. Also, I'm sliding to the side because I'm trying to get my water. Because I'm realizing that I didn't bring my drinks over here. I have an iced tea. I'm going to slide to the side. There we go. Now I have my iced tea. But yes, hello. Welcome to stream. Hello, Bacon. Stream out of nowhere. I did put it on the schedule, but I usually don't stream on Sunday, so this is kind of like a extra special stream. Even though we're not really doing anything extra special, I'm just drawing some things today. But what we're doing today is we're actually going to be working on probably the emotes. I have the emotes opened in the other tab, including this one, which we have to finish, of course, because it's literally so good. But the main thing that we're working on today is actually going to be a art trade that I'm doing. So I don't know if y'all know who Automatic is, but me and her are like doing an art trade. So she's drawing my VTube character, and I'm going to draw her VTube character. So that's mainly what we're working on today, is that. But if I do like the line art or whatever, if we're doing good on time or whatever the frick, however it ends up today, we'll probably work on some of the emotes too, because I figure why not. But yeah, that's what we're doing. We have our good old friend, the Let's Read podcast, open over here. I don't really know which one we're gonna listen to today. I'm trying to find one that like is interesting. What's this one? This one, I was catfished. 17 true scary stories. So let's see. Today, you'll experience horrifying stories about catfishing, car troubles, and crazy college experiences. That could be fun. What is this one? Trusting your gut, mothers, and Japan. So far, the catfishing one has my attention. What's this one? Sheriff Grandpa's, strangers, and things that happen after dark. Still feeling the catfish one, honestly. Unless I find something very interesting in like the next little bit here. I think we're doing the catfish one. Bartenders and evil men. Maybe not. We were listening to this coworker one the last time, but it's kind of like in the middle, and I don't remember exactly where we were, and I don't want to listen to a story we already heard, so I guess we're going with the catfish one. That one seems like the most interesting. It's one of the newer ones too. I mean, to be frank, I forgot the time, but I assumed it was the later time, like 10. Yeah, like I am off on Sundays and Mondays, so I actually didn't work today. So I'm able to do the stream a little bit earlier. So I figured why not? Because I don't hate doing the 10:30 streams, but they're a bit late for me, especially on like a day like tomorrow. I have to get up a little bit earlier than normal. Because it's my birthday. It's my birthday tomorrow. I have a lot of stuff that I kind of want to do tomorrow, so I'm going to get up a little bit earlier to get a head start on the day. But I prefer doing streams a little bit earlier. And there's only so much that I can do if stream ends at 12:30. I'm going to have to like sleep, because I don't go to sleep right after streams when we have them when they go to 12:30. So I figure, like, if I'm off, I might as well do it a little bit earlier. Not like too early, but a little bit earlier. I remember I used to do streams at like 2 in the afternoon on my days off, and I'm just like, nah, that's not really it for me. So 7 p.m., I'll take it. Uh, yeah, fuck it. Why not early? Yeah, exactly. And I don't want to listen to scary stories at nighttime, even if some of them seem like cap. They still get me sometimes. So we're gonna listen to the catfishing one. I think that's a good one. Also, I'm gonna start it. See if there's an ad at the beginning, because there usually is an ad at the beginning. Yeah, there's an ad. I keep getting casino ads. I don't want any casino ads.
For my third year of university,
Okay, well, the story started now. Wow, the volume is very low for me. I'm gonna try to put the volume up on my monitor because it's very quiet for me. Oh, it's at full volume. Am I just deaf? Hello? Hello, Spotify? Now I can't hear anything.
for my third year of
Oh.
university,
Okay,
was
there it goes.
planning
There
on
it
moving
goes.
into a
Okay,
large
hold on here. Let's read. Um, this is random, but I was just gonna say, like, I kind of have an idea of the pose that I want for this. Um, but I don't have any references. I was gonna look up references before stream, and then I completely forgot. So we're gonna like wing this and just hope for the best. But I'll start the scary stories now. Um, where are the other peeps? I don't know. Everybody seems to be like chilling today. It might just be you and me today, Bacon. It might just be us today, chilling out. But we'll see if anyone else joins today. But I get it.
with
Like,
the two
Sunday is
girls
kind
I
of the
lived
chill
with during
day.
second year.
Anyways,
We gotten quite close over the previous 2 years, and
so
I
I
was more than
started the
happy to spend
story.
my third and
Hopefully,
final year
if
with
it's too
them.
loud, let me know. If it's too
But in the last
quiet,
few
let me
weeks
know
before
as
summer
well.
break, I spotted a sign in the window of the house on my way back from uni. And
Okay.
not just any old house either. This house was on my regular route back from university, meaning that I'd walked past it 100 times over the previous 8 months.
I'll
or
run
so.
the pose by
And
you.
if I'm
Hold on, let me
perfectly
pause
honest,
then.
I was obsessed with.
So the pose I'm thinking. Okay, I'm glad that it sounds good, but let me pause and let me run the pose by you. So what I'm thinking is I want to draw Otter like this. So we're gonna have like her head here, and then let's pretend this is a good face. This is not. This isn't even the sketch. This is just me. Oh yeah, Otter doesn't have ears like that. They're actually up here. And then we'll do the face like this. And I kind of want it to be like almost she's floating and like holding a controller. So we'll have like the game controller. This looks so good. This should just be the sketch, honestly. But we'll have like the game controller, right? And then we'll have kind of like a floating type of thing. So she's like floating. You know what I'm trying to say? Like almost like she's like jumping. Like this but better. And then we're going to actually do a chord from the controller to kind of go around the background and do like a really cool kind of colorful background with lots of fun and chaos. That's that's my idea, but it's going to look a lot better than whatever the hell this is. And also, I think I might actually just pull up my references, because I had my references in a different little window, but I might as well just put them in this file, because why the frick not? So let me find them. Where are my refs? Oh, there they are. The main reference I think I'm going to use, probably not for the outfit, but just like this is the character we're drawing today, by the way. This is Otter here. Fun fact, actually, me and Otter went to high school together. I think we talked about this on one of my other streams that she came to. But yeah, we went to high school together. And then we recently kind of reconnected, and we're both like, oh, we're both VTubers. That's kind of strange, because we've been out of high school for like 8 years at this point. But we ended up being both VTubers, which I think is funny. And I love her character design. So this is probably going to be the main one that we use for reference. And then I have another one of just like an outfit. So this is like a summer outfit. I don't know if we should do the summer outfit, this summer outfit here. Or we could also do the winter outfit or do like a combination of both. I don't know what just happened here. I've grouped them together. It's fine. We just kind of have them for references. It's okay. But yeah, that's what we're doing. Anyways, to explain, let me preface the stream. She's got a cute soda. She does. I love it so much. So I'm really excited to draw her. Last time me and Otter did an art trade, we were like in grade 10 maybe. I still have it actually. It's so funny. She drew me a picture of a One Direction member, and I'm pretty sure I drew her like her OCs at that time, which I don't even remember. One of them was an Otter though, but I don't remember what their names were. But yeah, that was our art trade. She drew me a One Direction member. This is a good time. Anyways, that's kind of the preface of what we're doing. We're going to try to make this pose I have in my mind work and go from there. Let me put this story back on. I'm glad that the audio is all good. Okay.
It sat on the
We're
elbow
going
on a crooked
to
street
jump
that was
into it
mostly
now.
terraced houses, and
I'm
it
going
stood
to
out
work.
not only because it was detached, but because it has this cozy cottage vibe that appeared.
What am I going to do with
place.
this? Terrible
It
sketch.
was the
I'm
kind
just
of
going
house
to
that I could
delete
see
it.
myself growing into a crazy old cat lady in, and I can assure you, I mean that in the best possible sense. It had a tiny little garden out front, and from the looks of things, an outdoor cat who would
Clip Studio
let me
based.
pet
I
her
love
whenever
Clip
she was
Studio.
sitting on the
It's
wall
my
outside.
favorite.
All in all, it added up to my dream home, so
It's
imagine
the
my
best.
excitement when I see a room for let sign in the window. I made a note of the
I'm gonna
email
put
address
this.
printed
Yeah, I'm
on
gonna
the
put
small
this
homemade
this one
sign,
up
and
for the
then
reference.
practically ran back home to write up a first draft. Oh, and I mean first draft. The email said to send over a phone number and a brief introduction, but I think I must have hit about 600
Oh, hello,
words
Delito.
before I
Welcome,
realized
welcome
it
to
was
the
getting out of
stream.
hand.
Hello,
I
Andre.
definitely went
Welcome,
overboard
welcome
in
to the
terms of hyping
stream.
myself up and heaping praise on their home, but I wanted to live there
This
so
story
badly,
just
and
started,
when the
so we're
couple
just
who
kind of
owned the home
like
got back to me,
easing
I
into
wanted
it.
even more. They were a lovely husband and wife couple.
I
named
just
Jen
make my
and
sketch
Andrew.
layer super transparent.
And the rent that
Mine's
they
at
were
like
asking for was
50%
about
right now,
half what
but
the
I'll
other
probably
landlord
make it
wanted for our
less once we
four-bedroom
get the
place.
actual sketch
I wouldn't
down.
even have to feel bad about backing out of my flatmates, as we'd had a mutual friend who'd jump at the chance to live with them. Once we had all the things hashed out, I moved in as soon as the lease on my old place ran out, and so began about 2 to 3 weeks of just absolute bliss. Jen and Andrew
Okay.
were a hard-working professional.
How's
and
everything?
outgoing
I'm
couple,
having a good day
meaning I
today,
sometimes
actually.
had the entire
It's
house
been
to
a
myself for
great day.
13,
I've
14
had
hours
like
at a
a
time.
well,
That kind of
I don't want to
peaceful
interrupt the
environment was
scary story,
exactly
but I've
what I
had a
needed
really
for my
nice day. I
third
was
and final year
outside
of
for most
study.
of the day. I was
And
at
the
like
whole
a
place was
festival. It was a
decorated
good
so
time.
nicely that moving in amounted to a dream come true.
Love the
I was technically
stickers.
living in a
Yeah,
future
the
child's
stickers on the
bedroom,
tablet
I had a
asset.
conversion, but
I have
it
some of
left
them
the
in real
decor
life.
very neutral, which again was exactly what I needed for long periods of focused study. I
These
still led a
almost
fairly
kind of look
active
like
social
bear
life,
ears. I think they're
but
too
whereas my
big.
old flatmate's place became the party house during the weekend, I had this consistent crib of comfort to come home to whenever I needed some peace and tranquility. It was every student's dream in a way, and at the time, I thought that I was the luckiest girl in the world. But if I'd have known what a slow drip nightmare that I'd just gotten myself into by moving in, I wouldn't have felt nearly so fortunate. Like I said, living there for the first 6 weeks or so was a dream. I was given my privacy and treated very respectfully, which I
Okay.
suppose
This
is what
I
made
feel
the
like this
sudden
story is
but
gonna go
humble
sideways real
change
quick.
easier to notice. One day, I came home from university and the porch door was closed. Now I always
The
closed
Piplup with a
porch on my
gun
way
and the
out.
fucking peach.
Always.
That
Out
Piplup
of
with a
respect
gun
for Jen
is
and
my
Andrew, I wanted
favorite.
to keep their
It's
heat
so
in and
good.
Save them a few quid on bills. However, on that morning, I slept through my alarm. To get to my first morning lecture, I had to just throw on some clothes, rely on a hat to hide my bedhead, and rush out of the house with just a
This
few
is
dabs
where
of
this drawing's
roll-on
gonna get
deodorant and some
complicated.
chewing gum to give the appearance of hygiene. Not my finest hour, but such is life as a student. I knew for a fact that I didn't close the porch door that morning, possibly for the first time since I'd been living there. But like I said, when I got back to the house, it was closed. Later that day, I
Okay.
remarked to Jen and Andrew at dinner that one of them had been home that day, and both denied it. I wasn't confrontational or snarky about it, but I told them someone must have been home, because the porch door had been open. Both shrugged it off, told me that no one else had a key, and assured me in the nicest possible way that I must have been mistaken. I was so sure that I wasn't. I mean,
You're doing good. You're mixing
99.9%
music and writing.
certain,
Ooh,
because
nice, nice,
if I'd
nice,
have
nice.
closed
I
it
know you
shut at
sent
the
me
speed that I
something
was
on
going,
Discord. I haven't
I
had a
swear
chance
that
to
I would
look at it
shatter
because
one
I've
of
been
the
like
door's
out all
panes
day.
of glass.
But I'll look at it very
But then if
soon.
neither Jen nor Andrew said that they'd been home, there were no signs of forced entry or burglary.
It sounds like you're having a
Nothing to
creative
worry
day,
about.
though. That's good.
Now, don't
Good
get me
creative
wrong, I knew for
Sunday.
certain someone had been home. I didn't feel that I was going mad or anything. I just didn't see it for the red flag that it was. Not until it was too late. The point where I properly realized that Andrew wasn't quite the sweet married man that I thought he was the run-in I had with him outside the upstairs bathroom. I'll do you the good courtesy of not getting into the nitty-gritty of what I was doing in there, but I was in there for a good few minutes. When I finish up, I
Oh, it's
wash
kind
and
of
dry
strange.
my hands, and then when I open up the bathroom door, there's Andrew, standing right in front of me. He wasn't leering at me or anything. He was
I'm gonna
just
have to look up a reference
smiling.
for
I gave
the
him an
hands
awkward
here
greeting,
because I
expecting him
can't
to
draw
move out of my
hands
way,
with
but he
shit.
didn't. He just let a few more awkward seconds tick by before saying, "Sorry, I was just waiting for you to finish." I told him it was fine, even though it bloody well wasn't. Then he finally stepped out of my way and let me pass. God knows how long that he was standing out there just listening to me or whatever.
That's
We
super
generally
weird.
operated if the bathroom door is closed, it's in use policy too, so I know something wasn't right about him, just standing out there silently.
That is really weird.
That was a really rough night, if I'm being honest. I thought I'd found my dream setup for my final year, and I thought Andrew was this wholesome, dedicated husband who wouldn't dream of making me uncomfortable. It wasn't a complete disaster if he turned out to be a bit of a creep, but it was just really disappointing, I suppose.
Yeah,
Andrew
that's
went back
that
to his
sucks.
best behavior for about a week after that, but just as I was starting to think that the whole bathroom thing had been a hideous misunderstanding.
My Sona is just
Things
a
escalated
normal ass
considerably.
me with Animal Crossing ball hands,
night at
but
about 3
those
in
are
the
the
morning,
best.
I got
Those
a
are the
phone
best
call
kind of
from one of my
hands
old
that you can
flatmates.
draw. Is
She was
just
out
ball
drinking.
hands.
There
Those
had
are
been
the
an
best
incident with a
ones.
boy, and she was both very drunk and very upset. I stayed up to talk
This
to
is
her for a few
looking
minutes, made sure that
okay,
she was in a
but
taxi on her way
these
home,
hands
and
and these
told her
arms
that I'd
need
call her
some
again in the morning.
definite work.
After that, I hung up and realized that I needed to nip to the toilet before heading back to bed.
Is he gonna go to the toilet again?
Fluffy robe on, then crept towards my bedroom door to
Is
open
that
it,
what's gonna
only to
happen?
find that it was already open. I always close my door at night. Always. Especially after the whole bathroom run-in when I started to feel like Andrew's interest in me was less than wholesome. But then that night, my door was ever so slightly
I
ajar.
sent you the progress of my
My heart
first
started to
pages
pound as I
and the
realized
first
someone had been
chapter
watching
slash
me
arc
sleep.
of the
And me
fan
rolling
manga.
over to answer my friend's call had
Well,
done the thing
I
that
I
scared
have to
them
look
all.
at it. I definitely will.
If
I've
I'd
just
stayed
honestly
asleep, I
I've been
imagined
out
that they
all
would
day.
just quietly close my door again, but since I was awake, the sound
Yeah,
of
and
it
exactly.
suddenly
It's still
closing
badass
most
bacon. You have a
definitely
good
alerted
you
me
have a
to their
good
presence.
Sona.
That whole thought
I haven't
chain that went through
really
my head at a
I
mile
haven't
a
even really
minute, and
featured it
suddenly,
yet though.
I didn't
God
feel
bless,
so
I
much
own
like going
multiple
for a wee
stencils
anymore.
with circle
The darkness
cutouts.
in the hallway
Yes,
outside terrified
the
me,
best.
so I just closed my door, got back into bed, and tried my best to go back to sleep. I woke up tired, anxious, and bursting to pee, and my morning didn't get much
Oh
better
my
after
goodness,
that.
this took up the whole
I met up with
canvas.
the friend that I told you about, the one having boy trouble, and I got about 5 minutes into a conversation with her before I just broke. I tried my best to hold back the tears, with us being in public and all, but it was so hard. I was heartbroken, exhausted. I didn't even want to go back to the place I'd once been head over heels in love with. Now, I know this might sound like a major first
Oh,
world
hello,
problem to
fellow
some
welcome,
people.
welcome to the
Oh, a
stream.
man made me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah,
woe
Delito, I
is
was
me,
out
but
touching grass. That's
looking
exactly
from my
what I was
perspective,
doing.
there was a
That was
progression to
100% what I was
slow
doing today.
escalation, and if I didn't do something about it, it was bound to get worse. I ended up talking the whole thing out with her over a few cups of tea back at her place, and we hashed out a sort of plan. If I really loved that place as much as I said it, and I didn't want to let Andrew's creepy behavior force me out, I had to get a lock on my door. Jen and Andrew hadn't thought to have one
Trying to
fitted, and
frickin'
I had a feeling that
sketch
asking
this
for one
out.
might get a bit awkward. But if I wanted to be safe while
Build
staying
up
there, I needed to
the
ask about one.
shapes.
I can also hear you practically screaming at your devices, saying, "Why didn't you move out as soon as you realized you were in danger?" Well, I didn't actually think that I was in any actual danger. Having my privacy invaded, yes, in a big way. But did I think that there was a serious threat to my life? Not really. I wouldn't be seeing Andrew in quite the same light again, but I knew all I needed to do was get a lock and potentially warn Jen about her husband's behavior.
Hang on, I
And that
showed
might
Phil
well
a
resolve
little
the issue.
earlier.
There's
I'll
also the
post
third
a bit
factor
of my
that
Sona in
technically just
art.
happened
Okay,
to
I'll
find
look
my
at it
stuff and
after
just
stream,
getting the bloody
100%.
hell out of there.
I want to
If
see
I was a
more of
coaster
your
with time
Sona.
to play with, then yeah, maybe I'd have done just that. But this was my third year, the most crucial of my degrees, so couch surfing and looking for a new place would eat into my study time, ruin my focus, and potentially jeopardize my whole degree.
I'm not
I was stuck between a rock
super
and a hard
digging how
place,
these
so
legs
I
look,
weighed
so
up
I
my
might have to
options,
like
and I
redo
decided
them a
that
little
staying
bit.
at the cottage would be my best bet. When I raised the prospect of a lock
Let
on my
me
door with Jen, it was
use
just
the
as awkward
lasso
as I'd
tool
imagined,
here.
but also the most
Move
British
this
kind of
around a
awkward
little.
imaginable. I caught her on a weekend, asked her very politely, and she said yes right away. I actually thought the awkwardness was averted, but as I was walking away, Jen was like, "Is everything okay?" I just didn't know how to address the issue there and then, knowing that it amounted to accusing her husband of slowly escalating harassment, so I didn't. I just said yes, everything was fine. It's just that the whole lock thing had been on my mind for a while, and I wanted to ask if it was okay. It was obviously going to be their kids' room at some point, so a lock wouldn't be needed, but she agreed that they could simply remove it when the time came. I told her everything was okay, but I know that she didn't believe me, not 100% anyways. If I trusted them completely, if nothing was happening to make me feel uncomfortable, then I wouldn't be asking for one.
I think
And she
this
knew
is
that as well as I
probably...
did.
I'm trying
I
to
was
get this
actually
to
a bit
come
worried
together
that she'd just
exactly
ask
how it
Andrew to
is in
give
my
it, in
mind,
which
and
case
it's not really
he'd know that I'd tried to
working.
go behind his back with my request. But she didn't. She said that she'd get a handyman to do it since she and Andrew were both so busy with work. Now a few days go by and I hear nothing back about the lock, and then after a week, I decided to give Jen a nudge about it. She apologized, told me that it had completely slipped her mind, and promised to get on it as soon as possible. But that didn't do anything for me, not really, because the same pattern of behavior was due to repeat itself. And in case you hadn't noticed, Andrew would do something, or something weird would happen with my room or belongings.
You'll be lurking, Delita? Okay, thank you for the lurk.
Satisfied.
I hope that you have fun with your
Around the
writing
time
and
I
your
reminded Jen
music.
about the lock,
Just hanging
Andrew
out,
had been
having a
quiet
chill
for a
creative
while. And
Saturday.
since I
It's
was
Sunday.
due an incident, I decided
Chill
to
creative
employ one of the
Sunday.
tactics my friend and I had talked about. We'd thrown around the idea of getting like a little miniature camera, a nanny cam as they're called sometimes, as a way of catching Andrew in the act. A piece of tech like that was way beyond my very humble student budget, but then we realized that I already had a piece of surveillance equipment, or rather, something which would be easily made as a sort of ad hoc surveillance device. My laptop.
Jesus, what did I
I
just
just
do?
had to keep it
Almost
open and
erased the
facing
whole
door,
thing.
maybe with a sort of sleep mode or black screen app to make it look switched off, and then just record a very long video using Windows Movie Maker or something. It'd take up a lot
Booba?
of memory, and the picture might not
We're
be the
drawing
best,
Booba,
but it
everybody.
was a solid enough plan to be put into action, and so that's what I did. Day after day, night
I
after
kinda
night,
wanna
I secretly
draw her in
recorded
this
my room
outfit.
whenever I was out or asleep.
I don't know. What do you
hadn't
guys
really
think? Do you
considered
think
how
I should
much
draw
work
her
it was
in
going
this
to be.
outfit, or should I
Sifting
draw
through
her
video
in the
files that were
summer
anything
outfit?
from
This one.
7 to 10 hours
What do
long.
y'all think?
And if it was what
Because I
needed to
kind of
do
like
before
the
lock was
the
fitted,
like
so be it.
the
I was
Japanese
definitely ready
like
to move out
high
at that
school
stage,
clothing, but
watching
I don't
all
know
that
if I
videos
should
eating
draw
into my
her in
study
that or
time,
not.
and I know this might sound so lovely.
What do y'all
and
think? What do
naive,
y'all think?
but
This
also
outfit or this outfit?
responsibility to Jen now.
What's the
If her
one?
husband wasn't who she thought he was, and I just packed up and left her with him without even
All
so
right,
much
Sona's
as a
there
warning,
now. I gotta
what
listen
kind of
to what
person
this
would that
story
make me?
entails. This story kind of
remember
sucks a
getting
little
a
bit
text
right
from
now.
Jen at the
I'm
start
not
of the
kidding.
week
I'm gonna
telling
be
me that
real.
a handyman
I'm a
would
little
be out on
bored.
a
I'm
Thursday
hoping it
to
picks
fit the
up a
lock.
little bit.
It was such a huge relief, but I also reckoned that I'd keep on secretly filming until then. And as much as I wanted to say that I'm glad that I kept it up, I don't think that I can mean it wholeheartedly. On the Wednesday, the day before the handyman was due to fit the lock, I arrived back from uni and got to time skipping through my ad hoc CCTV footage. I was so used to seeing absolutely nothing that when I skipped a one-time marker and saw a figure in my room,
Depends on the
I
detail
honestly
of the art you
recoiled a
want.
little
Yeah,
bit
I
in
know.
fright.
Either one will look nice.
It was, you guessed
But
it,
I just think that this would
Andrew.
go really good with
I'd
this.
had a bloody good idea.
I don't know
that he'd
why.
been
I think
sneaking
that
around
outfit
my
would go
room,
really
but to actually
nice
see it happening
with this
right
whole
there in
piece
front of
here.
me, I felt this kind of skin-crawling nausea, the likes of which I'd never felt before. At first, he just stood there, careful not to touch anything, just sort of looking around.
Okay.
I'm not claiming to be a psychic or anything, but it was like I could hear his thoughts. He'd obviously been told about the handyman fitting the lock, even if it was very late and in passing, and he wanted to make the most of his one final chance to snoop around my room before I had it under lock and key. He made his way over to this corkboard that I had hanging from the one wall. Over the previous 2 years, I'd filled it with all kinds of pictures of me and my friends. Friends from uni, friends from back in Shrewsbury, printouts in Polaroids and passport-sized pictures, a chaotic collage of memories and friends both old and new. Andrew crept up to it, looked at it for a few minutes, and then reached up to pluck one of the smaller passport-sized pictures from one overpopulated corner. I was
That's
furious,
weird. Why is he taking
extremely
her
freaked out,
pictures?
but absolutely livid too. Only, Andrew wasn't done yet. Photo in hand, he walked over to my bed and laid on it.
Ew.
Not
Okay,
on his
see, this
back,
is
but
getting
in a
creepy.
kind of rough fetal position, facing away from the camera. He stayed there long enough for me to think that he was sleeping, but then I saw him move. It was gentle at first, barely could see it at all.
I think I know where
Until you
this
could
is
quite
going, and
clearly
it's
see him shaking.
not
Almost
going
like
in a
he was
good
sobbing,
way.
but I don't even know how to say this. More sustained, maybe? I couldn't work out exactly what he was doing, but he stayed like that for a few minutes. I know what you're thinking, but if he was doing that, then he certainly didn't leave any trace of it.
That's
When he
gross,
finished,
by the
he got
way.
up, straightened out my sheets, and then left with the stolen picture. I finally had him on camera, sneaking around my room, acting like a lunatic and stealing my things. Not exactly crime of the century or anything, but now I could quite literally show Jen the kind of guy her husband really was. Now granted, doing so would be quite an intrusive act that might well destroy their marriage. But women have got to look out for each other, right?
Yeah,
At least
I think you should
that's what I was
tell
taught
his
growing up.
wife, like, he's
I
being a
didn't
complete
really
creep.
dilly-dally over it, and I didn't let my new door lock put
Probably
me
go
off
with the high
finally
school
doing the right
fit.
thing either.
The general outline
waited
is
until
looking
we could
really
sit down
solid so
together and
far.
have a
Who
proper
is
chat,
this
and
that
then
you're drawing?
broke it to
I'm
her as
drawing
gently as possible.
a fellow VTuber
As I
named
imagined,
Automatic.
she was
We're
initially
doing
quite
a
offended
art
at
trade.
such an accusation.
And me and Otter
We'd known
actually
each other
like
for months
went
by
to
this
high
point,
school
and
together and
she
stuff.
knew
So
that
we're
I
like
wouldn't make up
past
some wild
friends,
claim
kind
on
of
hand.
reconnecting
Naturally, she
through
wanted to
being
see the evidence,
VTubers, which I
just
think
to
is
know
kind
for
of cool.
certain
But that's
that
who we're
what I was
drawing, and
saying
she's
was true,
drawing
and
a
when she
piece
watched
of
the
me
video clip
actually
I
for our art
isolated
trade
exactly
as
for
well.
her,
And I've
I
seen
could
it.
see
I've
that
seen
she
the
turned
sketch. It
pale.
looks really good.
And when the
That's
clip
I
was
have
over,
pressure to
Jenny
make this look
apologized
really
profusely
good.
to me, told me that she'd make things right, and then declared, very grimly I might add, I think I've got a phone call to make. I knew that they'd be some of the most difficult phone calls of her life, so I went for a walk to give her a bit of privacy. And when I got back, she caught me in the hallway.
Absolutely love the name. Yeah,
Tears were
Automatic
still
is a
streaking
great
down
name.
her
I love it
face,
too.
and told me Andrew was going to find somewhere else to live for a while.
This is her. So this
cried
is
a
the
bit too as
actual
I
like
gave her a
her
hug.
art that she has right
Kinda
here
felt like
for
her little
reference.
sister, you know, and for the next week or so, I tried to be there for her as best I could. But ultimately, Jen just wanted to be alone. Just over a week later, I came home from university to find that Jen was home early. She said that she'd taken a mental health day at work and had come home at lunchtime to put the Christmas decorations up. But when she got back, she didn't really much feel like decorating. I asked if she'd spoken to Andrew, and she had, but she didn't want to talk about it. She said that she couldn't really think about it without breaking down into tears, and there had been enough drama dumping on me for the time being. I told her that I'd be up in my room if she needed me, for anything, even if it was just to talk. And she thanked me, and I walked out into the hallway and up the stairs. I'd only been up in my room for a few minutes when my phone started to buzz, and it was a text from Jen saying, "Cup of tea," with a question mark. We'd taken to communicating
I
like that
feel like something
sometimes.
bad's
Very
gonna
first world
happen.
of us, I know,
Like
but
she's gonna
it'd
kill
be
him or
safer walking up the
something.
2 flights of stairs. I texted her back saying love one, and then got down to studying like I used to before all the horribleness had started. A few minutes later, Jen showed up with my tea, and then I got back to studying. Maybe 35 to 40 minutes later, I started to feel tired.
Oh
Not just
no.
that usual later afternoon sluggishness either, I mean, really lethargic.
She
I drank
put
the rest of
something in the
tea
tea.
gulps, hoping the little caffeine boost would see me through until the evening, but
Oh
maybe
my
just minutes
god.
later,
This
I
just
felt
got
the
insane.
exhaustion hit me like a brick wall, and I could barely keep my eyes open. I kept a few blister packs of Pro Plus in my desk drawer, little caffeine pills that I used to take to pull all-nighters, and as I'm rummaging around looking for them, there's a knock on my door. It was Jen, wanting to know if I was feeling okay.
This
She
is
never came to my
absurd.
room like that, and there was
She
something
she
in the way that
roofied
she
her,
looked at me that
bro.
just seemed really out of character.
For why?
It was like there was a question behind the question, and in a sudden moment of absolute horror, I realized what that question was. I tried to seem as awake as possible and told her, yeah, that I was actually thinking about going out with a few friends of mine for a bit. She forced a smile and then just sort of left
This
me
is
there
nuts.
alone. I dry swallowed about 4 of those caffeine pills and then called the friend who had the boy trouble from earlier that I mentioned, and I just said something like, I think they drugged me. Please come and pick me up.
Yeah, like what the
If I stop texting
frick?
back.
What the
I couldn't
frick
believe
is
that I was
going
texting someone
on?
those actual words. I even thought maybe I was being kind of paranoid. Never in a million years when I first moved in did I think that it had eventually come to something like that. Texting out an SOS, scared for my life, feeling completely and utterly betrayed by the one person I thought that I could trust. It was, and still remains, the worst night of my life.
Oh, yeah.
I made myself throw up to try and get whatever was left of that tainted tea out of me, but my friend still drove me to the A&E when she arrived to pick me up. I was kept in hospital overnight and the nurses monitored my condition, but whatever I'd been given just made me sleep for almost 14 hours straight.
Oh my
And in
god.
that time, my friend had been in touch with the police to find out what kind of legal action I could actually take. But the sad fact was, unless I was tested right after I was brought into hospital, there was very little they could do. To test my blood or urine, they needed my consent, and for that,
Roofie, what is that? I can't listen with high volume right now.
whatever
Basically, they
jam
drugged
slipped
her
into
so
my
she
tea,
would fall
I was
asleep.
basically dead to the world until early
Like the simple
following
movie
morning.
term used when a guy, for example,
I could still make
drugs.
a
Yeah,
complaint,
so
and
they
the police
drugged
would have a
her
word
to
with
like
Jen to make
pass,
sure that
like
she
so
had
she
nothing
would
to
pass
come
out,
forward to tell them about
which is
Andrew,
nuts.
or maybe even me for that matter. And then this is the part that still gets me the most. When the police arrived to talk to Jen, guess who was there with her? Like nothing had ever happened.
The husband.
Yeah, Andrew.
Yeah, what the
They
frig?
confirmed that yes, there had been a bit of a tiff, and Andrew had been staying with his parents over the weekend, but nothing I'd said was true. In fact, according to them, I'd been a complete pain in the butt from the start to finish.
What the
and
hell?
They half suspected of me being involved in a burglary that they'd been subjected to because one of the things that had gone missing was, you guessed it, my laptop. The same laptop
This is
containing
messed.
the only piece of evidence that anything remotely weird had happened in the first place. I
That's
went ahead
messed.
with the blood and urine test just in case they'd pick anything up, but I had to wait weeks to get a negative result back, and by that time, I was living in an emergency accommodation provided by the university. The
This
police
is
said
messed
that
up,
That didn't
guys.
mean that I wasn't drugged or spiked, as a lot of sedatives are out of your system in, I guess, 12 hours or so. It just meant that I pretty much had no legal recourse, as it was now just a case of he said, she said. My dad had driven over to help me get my stuff back, and funny enough, Andrew hadn't
I have
been
to make
present
sure I
during
do
the
this little
exchange,
like
and all my
woo,
stuff was locked
this
up
little
outside,
whoop
so no
thing that
actual
goes
contact
here.
had to be made.
Crucial to the
My dad
character.
wanted to
I
give
love
Jen
it.
and Andrew a piece of his mind, but it's not surprising that they didn't fancy anything like that.
I didn't
think
really
by the
do it
time I
justice
got my
that time.
stuff
That
back,
looks
I
really
was just
bad.
happy to have closed such a nightmarish chapter in my entire life. I had totally resigned myself to police being no help whatsoever. I know it's not their fault. The fault lay in
It probably
constraints
is
from the
their
law,
fault.
so I just moved on and forgot about it ever
Freaking
happening.
useless.
And I hope I never ran into them anywhere ever again.
Useless.
I try not to
Policia.
think about what would have happened if I'd given in and taken a nap that day,
I have to look
or
up
if I
a
hadn't caught on
reference
to
for
what
these
was going
hands real
on.
quick.
I could handle knowing Andrew was some kind of closeted pervert, but thinking his wife was in on it and was about to sell me up the river for lying through her teeth for weeks. Like I said, after all that chaos and insanity, it just isn't worth thinking about.
That's kind of whack. Like, that was a whack one. I know sometimes we say, like, oh, these stories aren't real. That one I could definitely see happening, and it's whack. That's absurdly insane. It's gonna be an ad? Or is it just an interlude?
This episode is brought to you by
No, this is an ad.
suited to your schedule. That's BetterHelp. So back when I was in college here in Germany, me and a few friends of mine were invited to a house party one weekend. It wasn't.
I guess
sold as
this
being
would be a
some
good
crazy
reference for
all-night rave
this.
or anything like that, but since the drinking
I'm just
age
gonna
is much
try. We're just
lower
gonna
than
try
in
my
the
best
US,
here, guys.
there'd been a lot of beer, and it was certain to get pretty wild. In light of that, me and my friends were really excited. We knew that there were going to be girls, and being the young single guys that we were, we knew that it'd be a great place to meet some potential dates and, do some flirting. We arrived stinking of cologne, wearing terrible button-up shirts with our beer in tow, and then we set up in the corner and just sort of awkwardly were drinking amongst ourselves for a while. But then the more we drank, the more confident we got, and slowly but surely we started to mingle. One of my friends started putting it on with a few different girls, and at first it was funny to watch him struggle. He was our designated driver for the evening, meaning that he hadn't been drinking and was therefore still very nervous and pretty clumsy. But then, we saw that the attraction to one of the girls was very much reciprocated. We were happy for him, but as much as I'd like to tell you that we were mature and gave him some space, that wasn't the case at all.
Of course not.
We kept harassing him and his potential date, playfully of course, but it was still unwelcome. Eventually he told us to leave them alone because we were ruining his chances with her, and only then did we finally respect his wishes and just leave him in peace. We were pretty drunk by that period, so we just went off and entertained ourselves so he could get some space. Now a little time goes by and we start wondering where our sober friend and his lady are.
I'd say also a good
checking
example,
all the
hold a
bedrooms in the
controller
house,
similar to the one that you're
all were
drawing to help
occupied
with
with
finger
people
placement.
drinking or
Yeah, I
smoking,
have
and
a
our
pro
friends
controller in
seemed
front of me,
no
so
one
I'm
to
kind of
see.
like also
Then, in
looking
the process
with
of
this
looking for him,
reference
we
and
found
then
the
at
girl's
my own
friends,
hands at the
after
same
asking where the new
time.
couple was, we discovered that they'd gone out to my friend's car for some alone time together. We knew exactly what they were up to, and although the girl's friends made us
like-
promise to leave them alone, we just had to get a picture or two for posterity, being immature and whatnot. You know the deal. I fully admit that our plan made us total a-holes and that violating someone's intimate privacy is not only wrong, but also completely against the law, to be honest, and we didn't end up taking pictures or video of anyone that night, as you'll soon come to learn. In order to maintain the
Oh my
element of
goodness.
stealth,
There we go.
only one of us would creep up towards my friend's car before secretly recording whatever was going on inside. That was the plan, at least. And that person wasn't me, so the rest of us sort of held back at the party to make it look like we weren't doing exactly what it is we were doing. We talked to the girls' friends, kept them occupied trying and failing to flirt with them until we started to grow impatient. All our friend with the phone had to do was run up to the car, snap a few pictures, and then run back with his prize. But longer and longer went by, and there was no sign of our friend with the camera phone.
Okay, this is getting a little suspicious too.
But instead of secretly filming our friend and his girl in the car, I found him sitting on the curb with no car in sight. He was on the
That's
phone with someone,
okay.
so I figured shutting up and listening would get more answers than asking questions he wouldn't respond to. As I listened, I worked out the call was obviously a serious one, and by the end of it, I was almost certain that, number one, he'd been crying, and number two, that the call sounded like it had been with the police. I asked him where our friend with the car was, and he just shook his head and told me we need to leave.
Oh.
When he looked up at me, it became clear that yes, he had been crying, but why? He didn't tell me until we took a taxi back to his apartment, and over a few more beers and some cigarettes, he told me what happened. He tried to take some pictures as planned, but when he got to our friend's car, he found him in the passenger seat alone. His head was in his hands, and He was in this terrible state with tears streaming down his face. My friend with the phone kept asking what happened with the girl.
Yeah, wait a
Over
minute.
and over, but our friend with the car wouldn't say anything. Wouldn't or couldn't, I don't know. But my phone friend walks around to the passenger side to climb in and talk to him with some privacy, and he asks again, what happened with the girl? And our friend with the car just points to the back seat. And that's when he realizes that our friend isn't alone in the car. He never was. And under the blanket on the back seat, he recognized the shape of a person.
Under a blanket. What
It
is
was
going
the girl that he'd
on?
been with, and she wasn't breathing. But
Yeah,
when my friend with
that's...
the phone asked what had happened, car friend just kept saying, I don't know, I don't know. At first, he maybe thought that the girl had had a seizure or maybe a freak heart failure, and he kept saying to call 112, which is the emergency number here in Germany for fire or medical. But my friend with the car, he wouldn't call. He kept saying things like, just wait a minute, I need to think, and other things to delay my other friend. My friend with the phone said that he jumped out of the car out of instinct, realizing that he was getting his DNA and all of those things onto what was now the scene of the crime, being very paranoid. There was no other reason why he would refuse to call the emergency number or try to delay in any way, or why he'd covered her body instead of just running to get help or maybe even trying to get her out. My friend with the phone then told the other to get out of his car, but he wouldn't. He just suddenly started the engine and drove off before my friend could stop him. He then was faced with a choice: run and get us, which is what he really wanted to do because he was completely freaked out, or do the right thing, be a man and just call the 110 number instead, which is not the number for medical, it's the number for the police. We later discovered that the friend with the car had somehow suffocated this girl, although we never found out exactly how. He planned to drive into the River Main to take his own life and hide what he'd done, but he couldn't go through with it, and was found by the police and subsequently arrested.
What?
He
That
pled
was
guilty to
kind of
everything to try and
crazy.
get as little time in prison
Not
as
what I
possible, and
thought
for a
was gonna
while, it was a
happen.
big story. But now, for most
These hands
people,
look
it's
really
half
bad. I'm
forgotten
going to
memory,
start
really.
over.
When I recall it, my mind always seemed to land on one specific thing my friend said when he was in his apartment afterwards. He said realizing that he sat in the car with a dead body, as well as the killer themselves, was the scariest feeling he'd ever felt. It's the kind of moment that would top anybody's list of their life's scariest moments.
Yeah, that is pretty, like,
But he said
messed
that
up.
just seconds later he was faced with something that was somehow even more terrifying to him.
Let's try
He
doing
was
something
terrified
like
that one
this
of the dead
instead.
girl's friends was going to ask him where she was, and how he wouldn't be able to tell her. I just tried to be the best friend I could to him, and get him away from the party before his worst fear came true. But I also understand how selfish it was of us not to warn anyone what had happened. Those girls might have carried on partying for a while, not knowing that one of their close friends was gone.
That's crazy. And he's like, oh, it just happened. Like, oh no, obviously you did something, sir. Guys, I hate drawing hands, by the way. It is the worst thing ever.
My name is Tom, and I'd like to share a story from my college days. As you can probably imagine, it's not a very nice story, but I like to think that
Oh, we're
it's
getting it.
something
Or
others
were
can
these
take
the
something
college
away from,
stories? I guess they
be it a
were, because the
life
first one
lesson
was
or
also kind of
whatever
that
else.
too.
I was pretty wild in college. You wouldn't think it if you looked at me, but it's true. I did okay in my freshman year, tried to keep my head straight and focus on my studies, but then the sophomore party lifestyle hit me pretty hard. I've also always looked a little older than I was, so...
This hand
although
already
getting
looks better,
party
by
was
the way,
standard
than
on
whatever
campus,
else I was
if I
sketching
drove into the
before.
city, I could pick up a six-pack almost anywhere. And that was not conducive to a healthy study and party balance. I would regularly find myself forced to walk home from some bar at 2 a.m., having spent all my money on shots with no charge on my phone to call a cab. A normal person might have that happen to them once, but me, it happened at least half a dozen times that I can remember.
Well,
Last
that's
time,
not
I
very
had just gotten back on the campus
responsible
after
there, eh,
walking maybe
buddy?
2 or 3 miles completely drunk, and I was incredibly tired. I was sobering up, in a terrible mood, and all I wanted to do was get back to my dorm so I could get to that bottle of vodka that I kept hidden in my dorm. But then,
Okay, sir, what
I
the
run into this
frig?
kindly stranger. There's a guy smoking a cigarette outside his
um,
block, and he says
I
something
missed some of
pretty
the chats
soft
because
with
I
me
had a
as I
reference
walk
open
past
in the
him.
background.
It was something like,
Hands,
crazy night,
same
but
screw drawing
wild
hands. Yeah, I
night,
hate
and
drawing hands.
I must have just
Hands
grunted
always
until I
need
saw him
way
smoking.
more focus than
I
the rest
asked
of
him
the
to bum
body.
one and
True.
did so. And then we made
The
a
rare
little
times I
small
draw,
talk
I
before
leave
he
the
invited me
hands as
inside for a beer
cubes
and to charge my
and do
phone.
them for the last or just
This
hide
guy
them.
was
I
still living
usually
in the
try to hide
dorms,
hands, but I'm
albeit the
trying to
nicer
challenge
kind on the other
myself
side of
here. We're trying
campus,
to
but
hold the
having
controller.
alcohol was still very much against the rules. Most heavy partiers had something stashed away somewhere, but this guy had a mini fridge that had beer cans tucked behind sodas. He said no one suspected him because he was
I'm
such a
trying,
nerd,
trying to,
and
trying
he
to.
was kind
I'm
of right,
trying
I
to
guess,
try.
because he didn't give off party vibes, but I just found myself seriously impressed. Well, more just wanting to have another beer before I walked the final 20 minutes to my dorm, but impressed nevertheless. I go up to this guy's room, and there it was, beer, hiding in plain sight. I asked to use the guy's bathroom before we drank, and he showed me where it was. And when I got back, we talked and drank, and at one point, I knew I probably should have started walking back, but I figured that I could just rest a little longer.
Why would
And
you do that?
ladies and gentlemen,
Why? Why would you do
is
that?
the last thing I remember. I woke up the next morning in the hallway outside the guy's apartment. I was fully clothed, but my shoes were out there with me. It must have been late morning because it was pretty busy outside, meaning people definitely must have stepped over me while passed out in the hallway. I felt like death, and I probably looked about the same too. I know I attracted a few looks as I sort of moseyed across campus and back to my room. I've been really drunk before, but never blackout drunk, and let me tell you, it was not a good feeling. I haven't even put it together why I'd been cruising along just fine before that one beer knocked me out completely cold.
Is this just the
Honestly, just
roofie
figured that I was
compilation?
exhausted
I
from
thought
hours
this
of
was like
drinking and miles of walking,
Catfish
but as I
and
said, I'd made that
freaking
walk 5 or 6 times
college
previous,
stories.
probably
This just
having
seems
drank
like
even
the
more on some
roofie
occasions,
compilation.
I'd never
What the
blacked out
hell?
like that until that night. I figured a lot of you probably have put it together already. Things are sometimes clearer from a distance like that, you know? But never underestimate the power of denial, especially when it comes to young men. I think a year went by before I was really faced with what had happened to me. I always knew in the back of my head, but like I'd already covered, I had that head buried firmly in the sand.
That's
In the 12
crazy.
months or so since I blacked out, the same thing happened to multiple guys from our university and even some of the locals too. They were walking someplace late at night, ran into a kind of stranger who offered them beer or maybe a phone charge or whatever they just happened to need at that moment. They then went up to this guy's apartment or got into his car or whatever, and he offers them a drink. And then boom, they wake up hours later with no memory of the evening's events. You might think that it'd be those with clear ideas or suspicions that'd be the first to raise the alarm, but in reality, the opposite is true. The more of an idea that they had of what happened, the more compartmentalizing went on, allowing our seemingly kind stranger to get away with his crimes for a long time.
Yeah, this is
It
whack.
wasn't until a dude went to a doctor, having no idea why he hurt so much, that the cops were even informed that something was going on campus. Then I don't know how, but
Whack,
they caught up
man.
with the guy, arrested him, and then the whole story
I think
was
I'm
in the
gonna
media
cheat and
within
just
a few
take
days.
this hand sketch
The
and
cops
copy
think
and
this
paste
kindly stranger
it.
assaulted anywhere between 18 to 100 different assaults in the space of 2 years. And you read that right. 18
Yeah.
confirmed, 100
This is
possible.
what we're doing.
And I heard almost a dozen were almost talked into testifying, but withdrew one by one in the run-up to the trial itself. Testifying would mean admitting what had happened to them, something that some guys just aren't willing to do. I guess
This
that
is
applies
really
to both
sad.
sexes, but
By the way,
it especially
like,
applies to men.
I didn't think this was gonna be
I
like
know that
really
because I
sad.
was one of those who withdrew. I figured if so many others were brave enough to say it out loud, I wouldn't need to. But that's not how it works. The kindly stranger who invited me into his dorm room that night got more than 500 years in prison on account of the 1870
Good,
counts
honestly,
that he was
good.
convicted of, plus a bunch of other crimes thrown in there too. It was good news to most, but to me, it meant facing up to what had happened to me. which honestly has been the single toughest thing I'd ever had to do.
That's whack, bros.
I've since worked with an organization called 1 in 6, named so because statistically, a 1 in 6
Oh,
man
hello,
will
hello,
be
Tristan.
intimately
Welcome
assaulted
to
or
the
violated at
stream.
some point in their lives.
Hangovers are
But because
hell,
of how little we talk
are a
about
hell
it,
of a
you'd
thing.
think the
Yeah,
number is much, much lower.
they are.
Well,
I've only had
it's
like
not.
one actual
And if the issues
hangover
I
in my
just
entire
discussed
life because I usually
continue
don't
with
get
viewers,
hangovers.
I strongly advise
But
you
it
to
was
go
the
visit
worst thing ever.
www.oneinsix.org. There's a lot of advice and information.
It was because I
there.
drank whiskey.
Just don't
Whiskey and
close
me are not
yourselves off and
friends.
suffer in silence, because silence is the real killer.
That one kind of just was like, seemed like something that would be on Netflix. Okay, I think this is probably as good as it's gonna get hand-wise.
Back when I
And
was
it doesn't
studying
look
for my
that
master's
bad,
degree,
but this is as good
was
as it's
living
gonna
in a
get
rented
hand-wise.
townhouse with an old college friend. She worked full-time hours. While
Did
I
he say
picked up odds
500
and
years?
ends at a local
What is the
coffee
man
shop,
supposed?
meaning she could
Yeah,
cover
he
her
did
costs
say
with fees
500
while
years.
my wages
There
only
are
just
prison
covered
sentences
half the
like
rent.
that where it's like you
She
get
was always okay
so
with
many
supporting me in that
years
sense.
for the
She pretty much
counts or
paid for
whatever.
everything, whereas
Also,
I
I'm
merely
standing
pitched
up
in
just for a
groceries
second to
occasionally. I felt like a
fix
total
my
boss
posture.
sometimes, but she'd always cheer me up whenever
But
I
yeah,
did and
that is a
explained
thing,
that
and it's
it'd
like,
be me
well, it's
paying for
basically
bougie
just
things once
life,
I
I
had some
guess.
fancy high-salary job. She was an amazing friend to me in that way, and we lived like that for almost 2 years. Until one day, she sat me down for a little talk. She'd fallen in love and planned to get married. The only thing was, they'd met online, and the guy lived out in Sacramento. They'd already discussed living situations, and he'd made it clear that he couldn't relocate due to his mom's poor health. So after thinking it over for a week or two,
What?
she decided to move to
Oh,
California
I'm drawing on the
so
wrong
she could be
layer.
with him.
Cool.
I was
Great.
happy for her, don't get me
Cool,
wrong.
great. Let me
It
just
sounded
merge
completely
those.
insane at first, but then the more we talked it over, the more it became obvious that she was crazy about him, and from what she
Just
told
say
me,
life
I
sentence.
couldn't
Yeah,
blame
I don't
her.
know. It's like
He
there's
sounded like Mr. Right,
technicalities or
alright,
something
but
like
as
that
sad as I was to see her
in
leave,
the
I
law
knew she was able to
system.
look after herself. But then there was the problem of rent. There was no way that I'd be able to pick up enough hours to cover all the costs, not completely anyway. So if I wanted to carry on living in what was a pretty nice place, I'd have to ask the
Oh, because I
landlord about
merged
finding
it, it's
myself
all
a
messed
roommate.
up. Great.
The landlord sympathized and agreed to help me find a roommate, but insisted on being part of the vetting process. Obviously, that's their prerogative, and I trusted them to find someone reliable and chill, but I was still sort of nervous about the process of living with some total stranger. A few weeks go by, my old college friend moves out, and I'm just waiting on the landlord to be in touch about my new roommate. I texted her about it, and she replied with something like, "Almost done meeting with potentials. Should hear from me in the next few days." It had all been agreed that I'd continue to pay 50% of the rent should the landlord fail to find anyone before it was next due, so I wasn't
Okay,
worried about
I
the
think we
time
got
schedule or
this
anything.
area
I
sorted
just
out,
sat there,
finally.
carried on with my work and studies, and just
The law wants to
waited
make
meet
sure
my
that
new
if
roomie.
they jail a
And then a few
vampire,
days
they
later,
stay
just
jailed.
like my
Yes,
landlord had
100%.
said, there's an
That's
unexpected
that's
knock on the
actually
front
what
door.
it is.
Outside on the step is a real plain-looking guy in his late 30s or early 40s. He's got boxes under each arm, a big smile on his face, and addresses me by name as he introduces himself as my new roommate. I was a little taken aback because my landlord hadn't given me any advanced word about anyone moving in, but since it fit with this whole time scale that he'd given me of a few days, and the guy seemed to know me by name, I figured that it was all legit. I kept the door open for the guy as he started to move some of the smaller boxes out of a U-Haul that he had outside. But as he sort of did all that by himself, I crept off into the kitchen to call the landlord.
What is
They
this?
didn't pick up the call.
Where did
so I
this
just
come
left a
from?
text and then got back to
Where
what I was
did this
doing.
come from?
The next thing I know, I hear the sound of a drill coming from downstairs.
Where did that come
I
from?
go check it out.
Oh,
wondering why
no.
this guy might need a power tool to get his
What
stuff
layer?
moved in, and
Okay.
It's not the guy
It's like,
at all.
what is that?
It's a locksmith, and they're changing the locks. Again, I'm a little taken aback, but once the locksmith told me that he had a new key ready for me and that he'd been hired by the landlord on account of the new tenant, I just nodded and went back to what I was doing. Only once the guy had moved
Also,
all of
yeah,
the
I think
stuff
we're definitely
in,
doing
there
this
was no
outfit
front door
that's shown
locked,
here
and
because
the
I think it
landlord
would look
managed to
really
get back
good.
to me. Not out of
So,
negligence either, just out of how busy they were. I asked them if they'd chosen a roommate, and they said yes, that they'd be over in the next few days to move in. They hadn't picked up the key yet, but they let me know as soon as they did, so I knew when to expect them. I remember kind of freezing as if to be like, oh no.
the mystery
And then I
brushstroke.
just asked my
Yeah, I don't know
landlord,
what that
did you have
was.
the locks changed?
That's me making
When he
mistakes.
replied with a confused no, I think I just about sighed all the air out of my body, and over the course of the next few minutes, we established what should have been obvious from the get-go. A total stranger had just moved into this house with me, and my landlord had absolutely zero clue who this person was. We agreed that
Oh,
I should
that's
call the
scary.
cops and get the guy arrested for trespassing.
Yeah,
And
that's scary.
although it had severely freaked me out at first, the fact that he knew my name gave us a huge clue as to who he was. My landlord had mentioned me to a number of the potential tenants, one of whom was a man in his late 30s to early 40s, who sounded a lot like the guy who had just so brazenly invaded my home.
That's so
My landlord
weird.
thought that his name was Brad or something like that, and he wasn't
Brad.
anywhere near a favorite to move in. But apparently, Brad had taken it upon himself to do just that.
Not
When the
Brad.
cops showed up, I expected them to walk
That's
in,
the first
arrest the
red
guy, and
flag,
then tie his arms.
really.
After all, he has zero evidence that he even lived there, and I was ready to get the landlord on the phone to prove it. But then the cops walked into his bedroom, talked to him for like 20 minutes, and then came out looking exhausted. Brad had shown them a lease, signed by two parties, meaning from their end everything just seemed absolutely kosher.
What?
I told them that it was impossible, that whatever documents he'd showed them
Stranger in
had
the
to be
house
fake,
slash
but
total
they
stalker.
explained
Yeah,
that it
this
wasn't
is
theirs to judge.
getting even weirder.
On top of that, all the legal stuff had to go through the landlord, not me, so once again, I had to just sit back and wait while this total stranger and obvious psychopath slept just feet away from me on the other side of the wall.
Why are they just letting him in the house?
Problems came almost immediately, with the first being his refusal to pay for utilities. This resulted in us getting the power shut off for an entire day until I literally begged friends and family for a few bucks here and there, until I finally had enough to get the lights turned on again. Meanwhile, Brad, I had honestly
Goddamn
never did figure out his
Brad.
name, just kind of made do. He made a show of it too, as if to say, nothing you can do with me to make me move out of here.
This is
Again, you
absurd
think once we
too.
proved that his lease was fake, that the cops would just come and arrest him, but after living in a place for a certain amount of time, city law states that they're legally a tenant, meaning you can't just
What?
throw them out. You need to go get an eviction notice, which again takes time, and all the while the landlord is losing money and I'm losing my mind. It looked like we were going to have to just live like that too, and a kind of legal, social nightmare for the foreseeable future.
That's
But in the end, we
whack.
got a lucky break. Well, lucky in some ways, unlucky in others. There was a long, slow build-up to it, but eventually I started screaming at Brad and getting in his face.
Whack.
And he hit me so hard enough that he actually drew blood, which
What
finally
the
was what I needed
hell?
to actually get him arrested, and in that time, me and my landlord jumped into action. In our city, there's a statute or precedent, or whatever legal thing, which states that an emergency eviction notice can be served if a tenant is convicted of a violent crime. We'd obviously have to wait for a court date and maybe even an eventual guilty verdict for that, but thankfully, it came in due course and we were able to evict him. To this day, I still can't believe someone would be so brazen as to do something like that.
This
and I
is
still count myself
absurd.
lucky that things didn't escalate beyond just common assault.
Common
Something tells me
assault.
that
That's a
Brad was
crazy
capable of
statement.
way worse stuff than that.
Man took one smack to draw Jesus. He hits hard. Did you mean draw blood? Yeah. To draw Jesus is actually pretty good. That did make me laugh. Oh, gosh. I'm kind of digging these shoes. These shoes turned out really nice.
So back when I was a sophomore in college, I was dating a guy that we'll call Will. I won't give away too many details about him for reasons that'll become obvious as the story progresses.
Okay, Will.
When we first met as freshmen, we couldn't have been any more mismatched. We were from opposite sides of the country, He was an English major while I was studying molecular biology. He was super outgoing and sort of right-brained while I was awkward, shy, and very much his complete opposite.
I did it
I'm
again.
honestly amazed that we even hooked up in the first place, but we
But
did.
I think I just did
He got
that
my
one, so
number,
it should
and
be on
I
this
almost
layer.
regret
Yeah,
giving it to him
okay.
because he tried some really wicked, cheesy pickup lines, but in the end, he convinced me to go on a date with him. We dated for the rest of the academic year, visited each other over summer, and by the holidays, he'd become my first serious boyfriend. We were happy, really happy, until just after New Year's, when I noticed a sudden change in his behavior. Like I mentioned, Will was a perennial optimist and very much a social butterfly. He always wanted to see and do things while I was a total homebody, so when I noticed that he seemed more and more content to stay cooped up in his dorm room, completely alone, it immediately struck me as odd. Our sophomore year meant that our studies started to ramp up, meaning time alone together was kind of at a premium. I didn't mind just hanging out in his dorm room with him, but sometimes I'd get there and he'd only just gotten out of bed. This was definitely out of character for him, and even more so was how downright cranky and cold that he seemed to be getting with me. One time I showed up and all he did for the first half hour was play some stupid video game, barely even acknowledging my presence until the game was done.
Okay.
When he couldn't seem to understand why I was mad, I admittedly got way angrier, and he stormed off to take his first shower of the day at like 7:30 p.m. And while he was showering, my phone just so happened to buzz with a low battery notification, so I just went hunting for a charging cable. Will used to have the same phone as I did, and he had the old cable lying around somewhere, so when I was unable to locate it in the nest of wires behind his desk, I went searching through his drawers.
I'm digging how this
And
is
that's when I
looking
found
so
a
far.
half-empty bottle of pills with the word Vyvanse written on the label.
We obviously have to do
He'd
the
obviously
tail
been
as
taking
well,
them, but I
so
had no idea that he had any kind of condition or anything, so I quickly Googled the name to see what they were for.
that should be
The
fun
first
too. We have a
result
little
was
fun
like
with that.
Vyvanse is an anti-ADHD medication, and again, I had no idea that Will had ADHD, but that's not really what got my attention. It was the side effects. Hallucinations, paranoia, depression, harmful ideations, you name it, and Vyvanse listed it as a side effect of overconsumption. I was almost certain that the pills were to blame for Will's sort of sudden behavioral shift, so naturally I wanted to step in, but I also didn't want to inflame the already present tensions that we had with each other. But sadly there was no way to avoid it. When he came out of the shower, I asked him if he had anything he wanted to tell me. Now I know what you're thinking, and no, I didn't do it in a rude or accusatory way. I did it in an earnest, I love you but I'm worried about you kind of way. Not
That
one
is
to
kind of
prolong the
scary, like
conflict
especially
any
because it's
further.
the overuse side effects.
Somehow, Will still took offense before flat
Mans did
denying
not
that he was
drug
hurting
himself
anything.
on
I tried
ADHD
again, giving
meds.
him a free pass for us to talk about the Vyvanse
Yeah, that's
without me being
wild.
remotely mad or judgmental, but again, he denied keeping anything from me. And that's when I straight up asked him, well, what about the pills? And he freaked.
Uh-oh.
He goes on this,
Oh no.
how dare you snoop around in my room? You're
Yeah.
not my effing mother. Screaming and shouting and balling up his fists. I'm not proud of it, but I just burst into tears. I've always been very conflict averse, and unfortunately sudden aggression just provokes this kind of stress reaction in me. The sight of my tears calmed Will down a little, and he agreed to talk about the pills. And here's what my initial theory was. Will had suffered with ADHD for years. He was embarrassed by it and kept it a secret. Since he was away from his mom and dad, he'd somehow messed up in his doses and was now suffering the side effects, but here's what was actually going on. Will had never in his life suffered from ADHD. Someone had sold him the pills as a sort of study aid, but
Oh.
instead, Will was using it to be better at that stupid video game that he'd been playing. He
Really?
wasn't studying all night like I thought he was.
The
He'd
video
been wasting
game?
his time trading insults with literal children. I couldn't hide how mad I was. I never
The
heard anything
video
so
game?
irresponsible in my entire life.
That's...
I should have just dumped him right there and then, but I loved him.
Oh my
Go figure.
goodness, not the video
So to his
game.
credit, Will admitted that what he was doing was extremely dumb and apologized for worrying me so much. He then took the bottle of Vyvanse out of the drawer and poured the remaining pills down the toilet and then flushed them away. Over the next few
Not
weeks,
to
Will's
be
behavior
better
and
at the
sleeping pattern improved
video
significantly,
game.
and
I
I
knew
can't
it
say with
wasn't for
near certainty that
studying.
he
No.
wasn't taking
Man
any
just
meds.
really wanted to be good at
But what he was
freaking
doing was
Apex or
drinking, and he was
something.
drinking a lot. As you could probably
Oh
guess by now,
god.
Will was always big into parties, not even for the alcohol so much as the chance just to talk to people. He enjoyed a drink or two, but rarely more than that. He saw alcohol as a kind of social lubricant, and anywhere past his sweet spot,
Oh
and he just
what?
called it and stopped being fun. Well, after the Vyvanse discovery, that all kind of changed. Will started drinking alone, and he wouldn't tell me why or where he was getting it. The most I ever got out of him was, "I'm stressed." But when I asked him what was stressing him out, he just put up a wall and refused to talk about it.
Weird
Slowly but
behavior.
surely, his sleeping pattern began to creep back to unhealthy territory, and after talking to one of his guy friends, I found out that Will was taking the pills again.
Of course
Once
he
again, I
was.
confronted Will, but that time I got a taste of what Vyvanse can do to a person. No matter what I
I
said
think the
to
skirt
him,
kind of
he would
slaps.
only ever respond
I think
with,
that this
"Who
skirt
told
slaps.
you?" Then each time he asked, the
Uh,
question would get
Back
louder
I
and more
had to go
aggressive,
for a while.
and
The
by the
progress
end,
you made looks
he
great.
was
Oh,
leaning up
thank
against the
you.
wall
Welcome
by my
back to the
shoulders while
stream.
screaming, "Who told you?
Uh,
Who
well, I
effing
have a new
told you?"
terminology.
The tears
Social
were streaming
lubricant.
down
I
my
don't
face.
like that
He
terminology.
didn't care. He just carried on screaming until he accepted that I was in no condition to talk. In that moment, I didn't think that I could get any more frightened of him, and he soon proved me wrong. Will started pacing back and forth as I sat down.
We are gonna
leaning
do
down on my
a
knees to hide
chord
my
on the
face.
controller
The only real sounds were his
so that we can do
footsteps and my
that
sobs, but suddenly,
because I love doing
Will
that.
stopped in his tracks.
It's
He
cute.
started staring at the dorm room's neighboring wall, then began hammering on it with his fist while screaming, "Shut up, shut up, shut up." And the sight of someone you love losing their mind right before your eyes is something that I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy. It's terrifying and heartbreaking all at once because it's not them anymore. I can almost sympathize with my ancestors who believed such people were possessed by demons. They're kind of right in a way, because they're not in control of themselves. Something else is at the wheel. I was too scared to ask Will what he could hear that I couldn't because the answer didn't matter. Not really. After that, I got in touch with Will's mom. I didn't have her number, but
That's a
after
better
looking
loop.
up his sister's Facebook account, a quick friend request was all
The
it
skirt
took to
does
get a
slap.
hold of me.
Yeah, I think it looks super
I
cute.
called her and told her everything.
Yeah,
and
we
she
got the
wasn't
chord
easy.
going on in the
She thanked me for
background as
caring,
well, which is
assured me that
nice.
she'd take over from there and promised that she'd be in touch with any developments.
I'm pretty
day
sure
went
there's
by
like
and
a
my
way that we can
"Love
make
you,
a
hope you're
pen so
okay"
that it
text
does
with
2
Will
lines
went
for the
unanswered.
chord, but I'm kind of
I
forgetting.
called
Also,
his
I just
mom, and
realized
she
I haven't
assured me
saved
that she
this.
was working on
Let
it.
me save.
But a few hours later, I got a text from Will asking me to come pick him up.
Oh,
from
the hat's
Uber.
off because I typed a
This
0.
was a huge red flag because Will loved driving.
Oh
and he
no.
loved his car.
Hat off
I bet he was
stream.
drinking heavily again.
Put
or
it back
something had
on.
happened.
Contain the hair.
Well, something had happened. Will had totaled his car, and my jaw dropped when he told me on the phone that it hadn't been an accident. He'd purposely destroyed his own car because he thought his parents were using it to track him. And it
What?
later turned out that he was half right, that his parents had hired a PI to keep an eye on him while they arranged for a stay in rehab. It was a well-intentioned gesture, but given how prone to paranoid delusions Will was at the time, it wreaked absolute havoc on his psyche. But that wasn't all. He wanted me to call us an Uber so we could flee to Canada. According to him, not his parents nor the US government could track him on the other side of the border.
What?
Therefore, if we wanted to live in peace, we'd have to move, and there wasn't a moment to spare. Obviously, I said no. There was no way in hell that I was about to just pack up and move to another country.
Yeah,
I
the
told
good
Will
call
he needed
there.
help, and he needed it badly. But Will didn't seem to see things that way, and I had no idea just how badly he'd take my refusal. For those of you that don't know how it feels to be stabbed by someone you've once believed would never ever hurt you, I hope it stays that way for you. Luckily, mine was just a superficial wound, but the one Will inflicted on the first person who tried to stop him, that wasn't so superficial. Neither was the head injury Will received when he hit the pavement after getting tasered into submission. I didn't press any charges, but the same couldn't be said for the Good Samaritan who saved my life. I don't begrudge him the right, I just wish things could have transpired differently. My poor Will is
The
currently
eyes are my
serving a
favorite
5-year
thing to draw,
sentence
by the
for
way.
aggravated assault, and
I don't know, I
although
just
we're
love
no longer
it.
together, I
There's a
still write to
layer
her from
property
time to time.
thing on
He's
one
not a
of those
bad
small
person,
tabs above
never
the
was.
color wheel that
He just
show
made some very poor
outlines. Is
decisions,
there?
and we both have the scars to prove it.
Which one is it?
Baseball's back
Or is it
at
here?
BetMGM. Time to head back to the plate.
Why do I
once
keep on
more.
getting
Are you ready
freaking
for regular
casino
season MLB
ads?
action?
I
Get
don't
in on
want
all the
casino
excitement.
ads.
Exciting triple
Bet
play
MGN?
600.
Excitement. No better 18 plus to wager. On
There's
top of
more!
that,
There's
casinos
2
offer
casino
really-
ads in a row! Stop giving me casino ads! Oh my god! Not casino ads!
I've recently been undertaking a course of cognitive behavioral therapy on the advice of my
Enough with the
psychiatrist,
casino
and
ads,
it
Spotify,
involved writing an
please.
essay on the event that caused me to seek therapy in the first place. It's not something I ever planned on publishing or sharing with anyone, but it dawned on me that what happened might serve as a cautionary tale for others. And if just a little bit of light can come out of all that darkness, then I guess I should give you a chance to use it in one of your videos. Let's read. That being said, I prefer
Ads
to
are
remain
too
at least
crazy in
partially anonymous
2024.
if you
Like,
share
damn, they
this,
are
if that's okay
a
with
quarter
you.
of the internet. They
If
really
you
are.
think that makes the last
The
story
small
less believable,
tab,
I
just
understand,
click
but
in
it's
one of
quite a big
them,
story where
and it
I'm
should
from,
say
what
layer
happened, and
property,
I'd rather
or
not
maybe
draw any more
outline
attention to
property.
myself than I already
Click
have.
like a small circle.
So back in the late 2000s,
Oh, one of
after
these.
earning my teaching qualifications, I got a job at a middle school in a major Midwestern
Is
city.
it one of these?
Teaching turned out to be a career full of surprises. I was surprised how quickly I was able to land a job. Surprised how horribly
I'm
understaffed
sorry,
and
Bacon.
underfunded we were.
I don't know how to
Surprised that the
use
kids'
all of
capacity
what
for
Clip
sheer
Studio has to
cruelty.
offer.
I was swamped with work, incredibly stressed out, and admittedly,
Or is it
very
in
lonely.
here?
I wanted to date.
No,
I
it's
just
not.
didn't have the time.
Between the color
So
wheel
I
and the
heard
brush
about a little
sizes.
website called Plenty of Fish. My curiosity was piqued. I set up a profile, trying not to make my About Me section too cringy, then I set about browsing the profiles of local singles. There were a lot of attractive, interesting young women. An intimidating
no,
amount,
don't do
actually,
that.
But as much as I tried, I couldn't seem to hold
I'm
their
trying to
attention long
figure
enough
this
to actually secure a
out.
meetup. But then finally, just when I was starting to think that the whole thing was just some lost cause, I got a message
I'm
from a
definitely
girl
more of a
named
visual
Lyra.
learner. Maybe I'll just Google
Lyra
it.
was
You
a
said
petite
it
Hispanic
was
girl with curly brown hair and big amber eyes.
layer property
She
or
was charming,
outline property. Let me
intelligent,
let's
we
just see.
soon swapped email addresses for more in-depth conversations. She said that she was working as a waitress downtown, had an interest in fashion, but also read a lot of books that she was kind of
Outline
embarrassed about. When I asked why,
selection?
she
No,
didn't
that's
tell
I
me
know
in
how to
case
do
I thought
that.
she was weird. At that point, very little could have put me off this girl, but she told me that she had a huge interest in serial killers. I just
Oh,
about
I
jumped
see
for
the
joy.
picture here. Layer
Not only did I
property.
somewhat share her interest in criminology, but a kooky interest
Where
like
is
that
that,
was
though,
something
on
that we
mine?
could really bond over. At least, that's the way it seemed to me at the time. We traded a few more pictures of each other, some a little racier than others, but nothing nude or X-rated or anything like that.
Oh,
I thought she was
here.
pretty.
I
She
see
said I was
now.
handsome, and before long, we were
Effects.
planning to meet in person. Between matching and the day of our planned meeting, Lyra and I talked almost all day, every day. We
What
talked about
is
our
happening?
lives, our hopes for the future, our families,
Layer,
and
color,
dating
subcolor?
history.
Do I
was
even
almost
have that?
27 at the time, and she told me that she was 22, but despite the age gap, we got along very well, and I got more and more excited to meet her. We agreed to meet for coffee one Sunday afternoon, so
I see
drove
what
out to
you're
the parking
talking
lot
about,
of
Bacon, but
Starbucks
I
in her
think it's
neighborhood,
like
gave her a description of my car, and then waited for her to show up.
I don't know if I have it. Like if
We
you
planned
look
to meet for
here,
2 p.m., but
I don't
when
really
2:15
have,
came
like-
and went, and Lyra hadn't
I
showed
have
up,
like the brush
I started to
size
get a
and
little
stuff. I
worried.
think I'm missing
I
it on
texted her,
mine.
but
Let me see
she
if I can
assured me
pull
that
it
she
up
was
in
only
like a
minutes
window.
away.
Also,
So I just
hello
leaned
K
back
Dog,
in
welcome,
driver's
welcome
seat
to
of
the
my car
stream.
and started
It's
playing
going
with my
well.
phone to
The
pass the
sketch that
time.
we're doing is actually turning
I
out really
obviously
nice.
wanted to be able to see who's approaching my car, so I'm backed into this parking space facing whatever
Oh, it's
strip
at
mall the
layer
Starbucks
property.
is in.
Well, where the hell is it then?
I can see anyone and everyone who might approach my car, but every time I look up from my phone, there's
Oh,
no sign of Lyra.
mine's over
And
here.
then at one point, I look up
My
to see
layer
this guy
property
walking
thing is
towards the
over
parking
here.
spaces where I'm at.
Border effect,
There are other
tone,
cars parked
layer,
next to me, so
color.
I figure that he's just going to get into
I think
one of
it's
them before
border
driving
effect.
off.
Oh,
He doesn't.
it's on the other
I see him
side.
stop
Mine's
in
on
front
the
of
other
my
side.
hood
I
on the
found
edges of my
it.
vision, and so I look up again.
I
to make
found
eye
it,
contact
Bacon.
with him. The
I
guy
found
seemed to
it
be a
on
few
the other
years younger than
side.
me,
So
Dark
I
hair
guess
and
in
eyes,
this
and a little shaved
situation
beard and
then,
mustache combo around his mouth and chin.
I would be able
He sort of
to...
checks me out for a second, takes a look around him, and then pulls out a small digital camera from his jacket and starts
I'm just gonna
snapping
merge
pictures
all
of
of
me.
this together real quick.
At first, I just gave him this exaggerated look as if to say, "What are
So
you
in this
doing, dude?"
situation, I would be
But
able
honking my horn
to
didn't stop him either.
draw...
I rolled down my window,
This?
intent on telling him to get lost, but as soon
Oh,
as
I'll
I
draw
did,
it in
he makes a
white.
beeline
Hold
for
on.
my driver's side and
Let me
begins
figure
talking
this
to me
out.
in a low voice.
And then go
Strangely
here.
enough, I can remember exactly what he said, not word for word. I think he was only 2 or 3 sentences in before my head started swimming and I felt like I was going to throw up.
Yeah!
It sounds
I
exaggerated.
found
now, I
it!
know.
Let's
You just
go!
Basically,
So
when I wrote
Bacon,
something
mine
like
is on this side over
he addresses
here.
me by name,
So it's here,
which is
layer
what initially
property.
stunned me into silence.
I didn't know that
And then he said
existed.
something
That's
like,
actually...
"I
That
don't think you're gonna
slaps.
make a scene here.
That actually
You don't want
slaps.
people to
Thank you
find
for
out
teaching
I
me
talked
that.
to a 17-year-old assistant, especially not at the
That's
school.
so good. Anyways, we'll use that for sure when we get to the chord. I've been taking taking a self-care day, but I hope you're doing well. Oh, that's so nice. Awesome. I hope that you're relaxing, having a very relaxing self-care Sunday. That sounds amazing. I was pretty much like outside all day. I was outside touching grass all day, and it was nice.
Breaking Bad, for example, when Walter goes
You can have whatever art, then the layer will have an outline to adjust the thickness.
Capture that feeling in 1,000 different ways on 1,000 different TV shows, but they'll never really.
I wasn't really
convey
listening to Spotify. I'm
gotta
trying to
feel it for
listen
yourself.
now.
And realizing that I've been tricked, catfished, if you will, into something that can destroy my entire life. Trust me, you don't want to know what that feels like. As you can probably guess, I hadn't been talking to any 17-year-old. I've been talking to the guy who was now demanding to be let into my car.
Oh.
Hell, I don't even know if this girl in the pictures was his sister or not, but
Also, the
we
sketch
both
is
knew that
finished.
That wasn't important.
It looks nice.
All that mattered was what it looked like. And I know this guy could selectively screenshot a few portions of our email exchange to make me look very much like the predatory villain going after the innocent underage girl. It might sound strange to some. All I ever wanted
Spotify is
to do was
echoing.
teach.
Oh, hold on.
I had an amazing high school history teacher who inspired me to do the same. It might sound strange to some.
It might be because of my mic.
To do was teach. I had an amazing high school history teacher who inspired me to do the same, so it might seem like an unambitious goal to some, but
Okay,
it's
is
all I
that
ever wanted
better?
as a career. My blackmailer knew that, and it made me a much richer target. They
Is
didn't
it
have to mine
echoing
enough dirt to
less
hold the
now?
prospect of arrest and imprisonment over me because the school board would ensure that I never worked another teaching
What is
job in my life
happening?
if there was even the whiff of predatory behavior about.
Hold on, folks. Let me try to see what's going on here. Because the other thing is that I honestly might be my mic, because I need to also hear it, so it's coming out of my speakers. But then also, I think my mic is picking it up. So let me see. Hold on. Let me see if I can fix this. Hold on a second. We're gonna try something crazy, okay? We're gonna try something wild. I'm going to try and switch my audio from my one computer to my actual laptop.
He had me by the proverbials, as they say. I knew it, and he knew it too. And then over the course of the next few weeks, he must have bled me for at least $1,000 before he finally got a grip
Okay,
of
I think
myself
that
and
is
went to the
that
cops.
better, guys?
Now, I won't bore you with each individual exchange. Just know that each
'Cause
one
it's on
came
a
with
different- it's
reminder
coming from a
of what he
different
had over
speaker
me, and
now.
At the time, I didn't think that I had any real recourse.
So let me know if that's
I
better.
fooled myself into
And if you
believing
can
that
still
if I paid
hear
him
me
a few
and
times,
stuff, because I
if
also
just
adjusted
gave
my
him
mic
that
sensitivity
few
a little
thousand,
bit.
He believed that I owed
But I think
him,
y'all should still be
that
able
the
to
guy
hear
would
me
find a
pretty
new mark
normally.
and move on from me. But he
Much
didn't.
better? Okay, cool.
The first rule of blackmailers: you never let them blackmail you.
Okay,
Otherwise, you'll never
hopefully
get rid of them.
Spotify doesn't go all
You let
distorted.
people use you like a human ATM, and shock and horror, they don't like the idea of suddenly losing it. One whiff that I was about to hold out on him and the guy threatened my life. After that, I had no choice but to either pack up and
This
move
is why I
or
use a
go to the
headset for
cops.
playback audio when
And after
streaming so
reviewing the
that my mic
conversations
doesn't
I
pick
had
up the
with
speaker
Lyra,
audio.
I
Yeah,
decided
like,
to stand up for
I
myself.
would normally do that, but
For
at the
the
same
first 2
time, when I
weeks or
have a
so, I was
headset
too
on, I can
shell-shocked
be
to
very
actually take a
loud,
step back
and
and
I don't
analyze what I'd
want,
said and
because my
done.
family is like
I wanted to
watching
delete my
TV
Plenty
in
of
the
Fish
other room,
account,
and I'm sure they
sometimes
already
more than anything in
think
the
that
world, but
my
I was too scared and ashamed
my
to
freaking
even log
loud
in.
voice is very
But then,
pleasant,
after
but I don't
realized
need
my
to be
life might
screaming more
legitimately be
than
in
I
danger
am
if I
already.
suddenly became unable or unwilling to pay, it motivated me to
But I can
revisit
hear it
Lyra's
pretty fine
conversation
on the other
history.
speaker,
I wasn't talking to a 17-year-old
and it
girl.
doesn't seem to
I mean,
be
I wasn't even
picking up
talking to a
that
girl.
much
I
on
didn't
my
even know if
mic
the girl in the
anymore.
pictures was underage, as there was no matches in the results of multiple Google
I just
image searches.
wiped my eye.
And that was the start of me going
I
down this major
whipped
rabbit hole
myself in the
regarding
eye,
blackmail and
shaking out my
cybercrime.
drawing glove. Oh
Every
my god,
single
that sucks.
self-declared expert said the
Stop
same
being
thing.
loud then, easy. I
Even if
can't
you
listen.
legit have
Latinos
done
are
something
always
illegal,
loud.
you
That
have to
is
be
a
the first to
stereotype
approach
that
law
is true.
enforcement
It's a
if you're
real
being blackmailed.
stereotype. It is a legitimate
It
thing
sounds
though.
stunningly petty
Latinos
that
are
it
always
came down
loud.
to something as simple as who
I
files the
cannot
first
control my
report.
volume,
But justice
especially
is
with a
indeed
headset
blind,
on.
for better and worse. And when I actually sat down
Also,
with
I
two
hope you're okay,
detectives who
Bacon. That doesn't
worked
sound like
extortion
it was
cases
fun.
like mine, they said it was probably one of the least embarrassing cases they'd ever dealt with. Smarter, richer
I've
guys
accidentally
than me
like
have been
punched
quite literally
myself
caught with
when
their pants
erasing
down,
before.
and
That's
that
something
alone
that I've
was
done
reason
a
enough
few
for
times.
some of them
More
not
than a
to
few
involve the
times,
law.
honestly.
The others were doing something legitimately incriminating. One of the detectives told me about a guy who was actually looking to prey on underage girls. One
You think
girl's
I already
father
don't
found
know
out and
that
blackmailed
about
the
you?
guy until he
Iron
hung
Mouse would
himself
agree.
'cause
Yeah,
he
Iron
couldn't pay
Mouse,
anymore.
like, legitimately,
Some might
Latinos,
call that
Latinas,
justice,
we
but
all are very
blackmail is
loud
illegal,
people.
no matter who the
It's
victim
just
is.
a part of
In the end,
us as
what it
a
came
culture.
down to was if I could survive whatever accusation this guy would make, there was a good chance that when his
When I
arrest
go to
got
like
traced
family
back to me,
gatherings,
whatever
we're
material he
all
was
like
hanging over my head was going to be released.
screaming at the dinner
Legally, I was
table.
going to be fine,
But that's
as we
just
know,
our
it was the
regular
school board's
voices.
judgment that really mattered. And sadly, the story doesn't have a happy ending. My blackmailer ended up getting arrested in a sort of sting set up to catch him, and I
I'll live it
testified
just stung
against
for
him
a
in court.
second. Yeah,
But before I
hitting
even
yourself
got
in the
my day
face
in
is
court,
never a fun thing,
every
I
school
will
in
say.
the district got a big brown envelope in the mail containing some heavily doctored images of my Plenty of Fish profile, the conversations with Lyra, and the predatory accusations that had milked almost $2,000 out of me. The detectives I spoke to were kind enough to contact the school board themselves, assuring me that the packages amounted to false evidence in the blackmail case. They were understanding.
I only kind
The
of
kid's
vaguely
parents,
heard
however,
this story,
they weren't
but
so eager to accept the nuance of the situation.
it kind of sounds like
The
it's
school board
crazy.
tried to make my case, but it didn't matter. No smoke without fire was the general consensus, and I was given a choice by the school board. Resign and move on, and I'd get a clean recommendation from them for my next teaching job, or stay and be forced out in a way that'd be a black
Whoopsie.
mark on my record for the rest of my career. When they put it like that, there was no choice in it at all. I've tried to move
I'm
on with
Latino
my
too,
life,
and it drives me
in some
crazy how
ways,
loud my
been
family
very
is. Yeah,
successful.
we are
But
literally
in
all
others,
loud.
I'm
Like,
still
and it's
very
like,
sorely
why are
lacking,
you
hence why I'm
screaming at
writing
each
all this
other?
down in
Like,
the
is
first
something
place.
wrong? Like, no, this is
Maybe
just
one
how we
day I'll
talk.
be able to shake off the trust issues
This is
that this
just
Lyra gave me,
Our speaking
and I'll be able to
voices.
finally
We need
start
to be
dating
heard. We
like I
demand
tried
to be
so many
heard.
years before. I'll always be scared.
My next
I'll
vid
always be
is
anxious,
entering the
but all
scripting
I can hope
phase, something
is
small
those
before my
feelings
next big
dampen over
analysis
time
video. Hey, let's
until I can
go.
finally get rid of this
I'm
cursed
currently
feeling,
working on a
earn the
very
love that I
big,
know in my heart
kind
that I
of,
deserve.
I wouldn't say retrospective video, but I'm working on a very long video essay that goes into every aspect of Okami ever. So that's kind of my next big project that I'm working on. My family is primarily parts Irish and Italian, so loud talking is the norm. Yep. For family get-togethers, Italians are also very loud.
I recently
Irish people are
discovered your
also
YouTube
very
channel, and
loud,
I've
so
been
it's
binging
probably
your
just
videos,
a lot
but
of
I'm also
screaming.
really broke right
too.
now. So instead of
Affectionate
sending
though,
a super
of
chat or
course.
becoming a channel member, I figured that I'd show my
Which is
appreciation
severely
by
ironic
sending a
because I'm
story
the
that you can
quietest
actually
person in
use.
the whole in your whole
So this
family
happened in
currently.
Vermont in the late
I
90s
feel like
sometime,
I have
98 or 99, I
some
think.
people in my
And
family
it's a
too
true
are also
story, so you
quiet.
can go research
but
to confirm I'm not making
no,
up a bunch of
actually,
bull.
when
Now,
when I
having
actually
said that,
sit
please
down and
forgive
think
me
about
for
it, I'm
any
pretty sure all of
inaccuracies.
like the
It's been a long
like my
time
family
since
who's
I've talked about
Salvadoran,
this with
all of
anyone.
them are freaking loud.
If I get
All
dates
of
or
us are
little
loud.
details wrong, that's totally on me, but I can promise you what
Because
you're
I'm
about
like
to
a
read
mix
is
of
true, as true
Salvadoran and
can get.
Portuguese, and Portuguese people are
So back
also
when I was in high
loud.
school,
So
There was this kid in
I
my
don't think there's
homeroom
a
class
single
named Chris,
quiet person in
who
my
was always into some kind of
family.
hustle. For example, there was a time he must have made literally hundreds of dollars selling counterfeit cassette tapes.
Oh boy.
I personally
But that's
bought
what
the
makes it
Weezer album
interesting when you have a
Pinkerton from
loud
him,
family.
and
Everybody's
he only
just
got in
living their
trouble
best
when a teacher
lives.
was caught buying one of his tapes. The teacher got fired, whereas Chris only got a detention, and then he was back and selling loose cigarettes in no time. This really did get him in trouble, though. Showing a little misdirected entrepreneurial spirit is one thing, but profiting from getting freshman kids hooked on smoking was something else in my mind. He ended up getting suspended for a while, but I think that his mom pleaded his case to the principal because he managed to avoid outright expulsion. When he returned from the suspension, Chris was a changed man and appeared to have completely cleared up his act. But as the saying goes, appearances can be deceptive. Instead of running hustles that could easily be traced back to him, Chris found a way to elevate his game.
Oh, so
and
he
it
just
all
got
centered
better
around
at
the school's
sneaking
computer
around and
lab,
selling shit.
along with its
Okay.
brand new internet access. So, Chris might have been a grifter, but it turned out that he wasn't nearly as dumb as we all thought. All he needed was the right tools. Chris spent more and more time in the computer lab, all under the guise of cleaning up his act. The teachers figured that he'd found his calling or whatever and just sort of left him to it.
No,
We all
bro,
heard that he
he's
was
being
building
a bad
website or
apple.
something, or at least learning how to. I remember thinking that was pretty cool, but Chris was always super cagey about talking about it. For some reason, Chris was also super into CB radios too. I remember him having an actual picture of one in his locker. He was very proud of the fact that he was building one, piece by piece, in his mom's garage. And
Okay,
not
that's
just
kind of
any old
strange,
CB
but
radio
sure, go
either.
off.
The most powerful civilian model in the entirety of the United States. When people asked why he'd want something so nerdy, he said that he wanted to have the range to be able to prank any CB user in the country. He pretended to be little kids in trouble or whatever and then laugh his butt off when they started freaking out and panicking.
That's
I
messed
don't know
up.
if we ever really believed him on that. It was kind of funny, I guess, but also
That was
way
not-
too
that's not
elaborate when
funny.
you could just use payphones for prank calls. But little did we know, Chris was telling the truth, and he'd come up with a very illegal way of doing it. Basically, Chris would visit these internet chat forums set up for CB radio enthusiasts, and he'd pose as a legitimate CB radio trader. I heard that he played it pretty smart too, renting a P.O. box so the hustle wasn't connected to
This
his
is
parents' place,
messed.
and doing
Like,
all of
why-
his
I don't
communication by
understand.
email,
Maybe I
so
just don't get
no
it,
one
but this
heard
doesn't
was just
seem
some kid instead
haha
of a
funny
grown
to
man.
me.
He'd reached out to someone looking to sell a part that he needed, claiming to be this fake trader, but instead of just offering cash for the item on sale, Chris would offer them any replacement part, claiming that he could source just about anything. Most guys just told him to screw off, but every so often, someone agreed to straight up swap and was dumb enough to mail him whatever part he needed. After that, Chris just stopped answering their emails and moved on to his next target. Kinda smart if you think about it.
I don't
if
know,
only
man.
in a fiendish kind of way. But much like a lot of endeavors like that, it was only a matter of time before someone figured out a way to get back at him. And boy, did they ever get back at him. One day, Chris goes to pick up a package from his P.O. box and finds that there's not one, but two boxes inside. He's working multiple targets at one time by this point, so it wasn't a nice, but not entirely unexpected surprise. He grabs both boxes, throws them in the back seat of his mom's car, and then drives back home to open them. His mom's in the house at the time, and she's in the same room when Chris started opening up the boxes. He opens one up, and there's radio parts inside. But when he opens up the other, there's another smaller box inside, and when he opens that smaller box, boom. Chris's mom watched her own son turn into mincemeat right there in front of her. And
What?
the explosion put her in the hospital for days afterwards. One of Chris's targets hadn't just been content to eat his loss, and had come up with a horrifyingly poetic way of getting back at him. I guess the guy could have just called the cops and given them the P.O. box number because
That's
although this was back during
crazy.
the Wild West days of the internet,
Oh my
I'm pretty sure
god.
what he was doing was still wire fraud in some way.
This is why you don't
But it
freaking
turns
prank
out,
people like
This
that.
dude couldn't wait to see Chris
Especially if they
in
have
cuffs,
your
so he decided
address,
on a
like,
little vigilante
what?
justice instead. This guy spent months learning how to build a small, powerful explosive device, testing out trigger mechanisms and power yields or whatever,
This is.
until we finally
I don't
had
even
one
know what
that
to
would
say.
ship, explode,
Jesus
and kill the
shit. Yeah,
first person who
exactly.
opened
That's
it.
how I feel right now. Oh
I
my
think the guy
goodness.
was from Iowa or Idaho or something, somewhere way across the country, and I know he ended up going to prison for it because it was all over the newspapers here in Fairhaven. I guess the whole thing had really affected the way I look at the internet as I became an adult. Not only are there tons of people online who just aren't who they say they are, but there are also something legitimately scary about the internet's power to connect people.
Yeah.
Sure, it has this amazing power to connect people in a positive way, people who never would have ended up connecting otherwise. But it also opens us up to all kinds of negative interactions too. There are a whole lot of psychos out there in cyberspace, and if you make them mad,
Yeah,
it can have
that's a
deadly,
wild one.
real-life consequences.
That's a wild one, guys. Are we gonna get a bet
In May
MGM
of
Casino?
2005, a very bored ex-Marine
No,
decided to take advantage
no,
of
we're
the
getting a
internet's
new story.
anonymity
Okay.
to do something very unsavory. 46-year-old Thomas Montgomery, a married father of two, logged on to an internet chat room for teenagers named Pogo and set up a profile depicting a kind of alternate version of himself. In his heyday, Thomas had spent a few years in the United States Marine Corps, but had been discharged in his mid-20s with medical issues. In light of that, he chose a username that somewhat exaggerated his role in the services, Marine Sniper. Using an
Okay.
old photograph of himself in Marine Corps fatigues, Thomas posed as an 18-year-old jarhead sniper, bound for the battlefields of Iraq in the coming months. He soon received a message from a user named Tall Hot Blonde, an 18-year-old girl who wished him luck on his fictional tour of Iraq. I kept thinking, well, we're never going to meet, Thomas later said. I'll just play the game with her, he said. Before long, their careless flirtations blossomed into something increasingly deeply meaningful. Tall Hot Blonde soon revealed that her name was Jessie, a high school senior from West Virginia with a passion for horses and softball.
She's a horse
Thomas, on
girl.
the
Run
other
away.
hand,
No.
painted her a picture of covert operations
I'm just joking.
and elite special force units. In reality, he never once saw a shot fired in anger. He described himself as a stronger, more virile version of the real-world Thomas, standing at a muscle-bound 6 feet tall with bright red hair and icy blue eyes. The description prompted Jesse to send what was described as some very provocative photos.
Ooh.
His plan
Oh,
to
no.
win a little female company appeared to be working like a charm, but his dependence on the buzz it gave him soon became unhealthy. It became more real to me than real life, Thomas later said, and he proved to be as generous as he was affectionate. He sent Jesse gifts of cash and jewelry, and the pair supplemented their online conversations with perfumed handwritten love letters. It wasn't long before Thomas was arranging his schedule around his talks with Jesse, to the point that it became a debilitating addiction. If I was smart, I would have just ended it, he later said. But it was like a drug that I needed every day. By this time, Thomas's online relationship wasn't just taking over his life, it was taking over his mind, too. On January 2nd of 2006, he wrote a note in a digital journal that he appeared to have been keeping, and it read, "Today, Thomas Montgomery, 46, ceases to exist. He is replaced by an 18-year-old, battle-scarred Marine and is moving to West Virginia to be with the love of his life." He was clearly on the verge of a psychotic break, and as a result, his attempts to hide the affair from his family became increasingly lackadaisical. Finally, in March of 2006, Thomas neglected to log out of his Pogo account, and his
Uh-oh.
conversations with Jessie were discovered by one of his daughters.
Uh-oh. Oh,
Confused
no.
as to who this younger woman was, Thomas's daughter
That's
showed
a
her
big
mother,
oops, man.
and she was furious.
I would be
Having
too.
made a note of Jessie's home address, Thomas's wife wrote her a handwritten letter exposing her husband for the manipulative fantasist that he was. She enclosed a photograph of their family, having written on the back, "Let me introduce you to these people. That's me. These are our daughters. But the man in the center is Tom. The one you've been
My
talking to.
sister just
He's not
had like an
18.
actual
He's
cackle
46,
laugh.
and he's been my husband since
Just did
1989.
not go with the mood of
Jessie
the
was
story, I
horrified
don't
and
think.
broke off the relationship with Thomas immediately. "I hate you," she said in a hastily typed text. "You should be in jail for this." Thomas was left to deal with the fallout of his digital infidelities, believing his relationship with Jessie was over and done with. But meanwhile, unbeknownst to the Montgomery family, Jessie set about verifying the whole story by contacting one of Thomas's co-workers. 22-year-old part-time machinist Brian Barrett found himself the surprise recipient of an email from Jessie, and once again, an online romance rapidly blossomed. Given their similar ages and interests, Jessie and Brian were a much better fit for each other, with the latter becoming a shoulder to cry on after confirming the former's worst fears. They talked for a few months, becoming more and more flirtatious until Brian asked Jessie to be his girlfriend. After a series of long-distance telephone calls confirmed that Brian was indeed real, Jessie planned for the couple to meet that summer. The future looked bright, at least until a familiar username slid into the young woman's DMs. It was from Marine Sniper, and the message simply read, "I miss you." As much as Jessie had been disgusted at Thomas's deception, she couldn't deny that she'd missed him. Thomas was a liar.
Really?
But he had a way with words, and
Really?
Jessie was a sucker for silver tongue. She welcomed her former beau's return, but she was
Also,
honest
thank
about
you,
her
thank you,
relationship with
Bella.
Thomas's
I'm liking
coworker,
how it's
Brian.
turning out so far, and I
As
love
an
doing
older
line
married
art.
man,
Line art
she
really
expected
puts it all
Thomas to
together,
take
you
the
know what I
news in
mean?
stride, but she was wrong. Thomas's messages
I thought we were gonna
became
work on
frighteningly
emotes today,
violent,
but I don't
as
think
he
we
claimed
are.
that Brian would pay in
We kind
blood
of just worked
for,
on
and I
this.
quote, "taking what belongs to me." When Jessie defended her new boyfriend, Thomas turned on her too, calling her names that she would later describe as shockingly abusive. For Jessie, having someone that she had a deep affection for turn so suddenly vile was beyond upsetting, and unsurprisingly,
That's a good line.
she
That's
sought
the good
comfort
line
in
there.
Brian. In retribution, Thomas took to the chat rooms Thomas still frequented, outing him as a middle-aged freak, and in some cases, accusing him of being a predator to children. Ironically, such extreme measures
Also, I
actually
think
pushed
my face
Jessie back
tracking
into
kind of
Thomas's digital arms, as
I think it kind of
just after
shuts off
instances
sometimes
of
if I'm
chat
really
room
deep
slander,
into
she
my
sent him a short,
my work
6-word
here, so I
message.
apologize if
"I
I'm
ache
pulling
to
crazy
be with Tommy."
faces.
Documentary filmmaker
Just trying to
Barbara
focus
Schroeder
on the line
later
art.
described the ensuing conversation as Thomas's jackpot.
These shoes look
He
so
was being accepted for
cute.
being 47, she later
I
said.
am like
And
actually
he still
obsessed
had
with
this
these
attractive
shoes.
young girl wanting him now. The only trouble was, Thomas was trying to have his cake and eat it too.
Drawing King in one
In
of
the
these
aftermath of
outfits
his online
when?
affairs discovery, Thomas had begged his
Oh,
wife
hopefully
not to
this
leave him.
yippee art of
Somehow,
you is almost
perhaps
done
due
that
to
I'm
the lack
working
of
on right now.
physical
Yeah, I want to
infidelity,
see it.
he
And
managed
like
to save
the
his
sketch looks
marriage and
perfect.
promised
I
his
want to
wife
see it
he'd
finished
cease
so I
any
can go
lurid online activity.
yippee in real life.
Yet it wasn't long before the same old craving set in, and
That's my
eventually,
actual
Thomas
live
returned to his old
reaction.
patterns
Yippee!
behavior. He had no intention of losing his wife and children, but he was also dangerously addicted to his conversations with Jessie. To hide his activities from his wife, Thomas began talking to Jessie until the small hours of the morning, sacrificing his sleep and, in turn, his mental
Y'all,
health.
when Otter
in
has done
exchange for
her
time with his
drawing of
online
me as
heroin.
well, I'm gonna have to show y'all because I saw
Once
the
again,
sketch and it looks
the obsession began
badass,
to take a
bro.
toll on his mental health.
Mine is definitely
The more
more
they
like
talked, the
playful
less
and
he slept, and the
fun,
less Thomas
but I
slept.
like the
His
vibe
grip
of
on
it.
reality
I
began
really
to
do.
weaken.
It's a
Finally,
good
after
vibe
weeks
so
of
far.
almost constant talking, Jessie realized that she and Thomas had no future together, and she bravely broke things off with him during a long and heartfelt chat exchange. Jessie clearly hadn't learned from her first attempt to romantically reject the middle-aged ex-Marine. Thomas had been unhinged before, but now he was absolutely psychotic. Behavioral
that's not good.
therapists who later dealt with Thomas described him as frightening, and that the final rejection had sent him into an abyss. For weeks, Thomas stewed in a mix of hatred and a raw desire for revenge. Some believe that he deserted the chat room altogether, having been outed and humiliated not once, but twice. But Thomas wasn't gone. He was simply lurking, watching, waiting. As time went by, Jessie once again proposed a meeting with 22-year-old Brian Barrett. The invitation delighted him. His serendipitous internet romance was finally about to
Serendipitous.
blossom into something
I
tangible,
like that word.
something real, and he couldn't have been more excited about it. Yet Brian went on to make a fatal error of judgment, one born out of innocent desire to share his good news with others. Brian was now very active in the Pogo chat rooms, having been introduced to them by Jesse. He'd made a bunch of new friends, all of which knew Jesse and who were over the moon when they heard the news that they were going on their official first date. The thing is,
This
these messages
definitely can't
were
end
shared
well.
in what was called the main chat, as opposed to direct or private messages. This meant anyone in the chat room could read and react to Brian's good news, including people lurking under assumed or random number usernames. People like Thomas Montgomery. On the afternoon of September
Knew that was
15th,
gonna happen.
2006, Brian Barrett finished his workday, closed out his shift, and then walked out into the parking lot towards his car. Out of the corner of his eye, Brian noticed a man standing by a white truck, a man who seemed to be staring at him as he fished around for his car keys. Brian shot the man a look, but didn't recognize him. Yet moments later, the man called out for his attention. Brian looked around for a second time, but on this occasion, the man was holding a long-barreled, semi-automatic rifle. It was Thomas.
Oh no.
According to witnesses, the armed man stated something to the effect of, "should have stayed away," before 3 shots rang out.
No!
Brian was dead before he hit the blacktop.
Are you serious?
Police learned of the bizarre love triangle from Brian's coworkers, who were very familiar with his rivalry with Thomas. But while he remained on the loose,
That's
Jesse
fudged.
wasn't safe. The police pored over Brian's Pogo message history to track down any trace of Jesse's address, and when they did, they raced over to her property to ensure that she was safe. This is where police were in for yet another surprise, because instead of Jesse or her parents answering the door, a woman named Mary Sheeler greeted them instead. The officers demanded to know where Jesse was, but a frightened Mary Sheeler claimed to have no idea what they were talking about. When the officers made it clear that
So
a
she
man
was
was on his way to kill
catfishing
her,
too?
Sheeler broke down. There was no Jesse, or more accurately, she had been masquerading as the bubbly 18-year-old the entire time.
Oh my
Jesse's
god.
pictures were of those of Mary's teenage daughter, who had no idea her mother was using them to catfish men online. And after cooperating with the police, Mary helped law enforcement bring Thomas Montgomery to justice. He later pled guilty to the murder, but in exchange for his plea, he received a reduced 20-year sentence instead of the death penalty. Prosecutors later attempted
were
to charge
both
Mary Sheeler
catfishing.
as some kind of accessory to the crime, but the incident exposed gaping holes in the fight against cybercrime and internet deception in general. Some assert she deliberately provoked the violence, and that she delighted in the idea of 2 men fighting her. Yet, in an interview with the BBC, Mary
Damn, a
argued
reverse
behind her.
catfish. Yeah, both of them were catfishing.
Never happened. I just never thought that it would go anywhere, she said. I honestly thought it would end, fall off, and that would be the end of it. I didn't want anyone to get hurt. Despite dodging charges, Mary didn't come away unscathed. Her own husband later divorced her over the incident, and the use of her daughter's pictures caused a rift that has yet to properly heal. We can't blame Mary Sheeler for
Spotify
the
is
actions of
distorted
Thomas
again. Hold on.
Montgomery. Both were fantasy.
Just gonna I don't know why Spotify is doing that for y'all.
But only one chose to pick up a
Is it
firearm
better now?
as a
I
way of
paused
hurting the
it.
other. It's just a shame that an innocent young man had to be
I paused
a kind
and
of
restarted it,
sacrificial
so
lamb,
hopefully it's better
a
now.
blood tribute to conclude a relationship based on lust, lies, and loathing.
What is it doing?
Following the
I don't know
same
why
old
it's
path
doing that.
gets
Does
you
it
to the
sound
same
okay
old
now?
destination. Why not make new tracks in a Mitsubishi from KW Mitsubishi? Gas or
We're getting a
electric.
car
Ours is
commercial now.
100%
Goodness
car.
me.
Visit them at
Spotify?
Casey Renee
There.
Woody was born
Is
on
it okay?
October
Hopefully it's
17th,
better. We got a
1989
commercial and I
in Little Rock,
skipped it, so
Arkansas.
hopefully it's still better.
She was the only daughter of Rick and Christy Woody, and although she lost her mother at a young age, she grew into an intelligent, talented young lady. Friends described her as a kind of caring girl who loved singing, dancing, and playing her saxophone. By
Lisa
2002,
Simpson.
the Woody family lived in
Lisa
the rural
Simpson
Arkansas town of
playing her
Holland, a heavily
saxophone.
forested area that relied on a nascent internet for communication. As a result, 13-year-old Casey kept in touch with friends using Yahoo Messenger under the username Model Behavior. However, it wasn't just close friends Casey talked with online. Since late 2001, Casey had been kindling a friendship with 17-year-old David Fagan, with the pair having bonded over the
Whoops,
loss
I'm
of loved ones.
pressing the wrong
Two of
freaking
Casey's close friends,
thing
Sam
sometimes,
and Jessica, also
and
added
accidentally
David to their
doing
Yahoo
light
friends
gray
list.
instead of the eraser,
Yet while he made
which
an effort to
isn't
come
really
across
ideal.
as a charming, well-intentioned young man, Sam was not fooled. She might have been just 13, but she was wise enough to recognize that something was wrong. No 17-year-old in their right mind would even think of becoming romantically involved with someone 4 years their junior, and the fact that David had never called or sent a verifiable picture made her even more suspicious. She advised Casey not to get too attached to David. Sadly, she didn't listen.
Oh no.
Rick Woody, Casey's father, worked grueling 11-hour swing shifts as a police officer, meaning he wasn't home enough to effectively monitor her internet activity. Rick knew that Casey talked to boys in online chat rooms, but wasn't overly concerned about it. He
Why
trusted
weren't you
that his daughter
overly
was making
concerned about
friends
it, my
within her
guy?
age group, and
I would be
talking
overly
online
concerned
was
about
much
that.
safer than meeting in person. Yet when he discovered that Casey was talking to someone in their late teens, he was furious.
Yeah.
Rick banned his daughter from any further communication with David, but Casey simply circumvented the ban by calling David long distance. One night during the summer of 2002, Casey and her friend Jessica were having a sleepover at the Woody family home. Sometime in the early evening, the phone rang. Casey answered the call. It was David.
Yeah, those eyes
The
seem
pair
good.
engaged in a little small talk for a while, until suddenly, Jessica heard a strange sound coming from downstairs. She walked out of Casey's bedroom and over to the top of the stairs, listening out for any further noises. And that's when she heard the telltale sound of the kitchen floorboard creaking underfoot. Jessica
No.
hurtled back into Casey's room, closing and blocking her door with a nearby dresser. Casey descended into a panic when she realized someone was in the house with them, and she expressed fears to David, who was still on the phone with her.
It's him,
David told her
bro.
not to worry, and that no one was in the house and that they'd both be fine. After that, the noises stopped.
It's him, bro.
Sometime after this incident, Casey began communication with a Yahoo user named Taz2999.
What are these
Taz claimed to be a
usernames? By the
14-year-old
way.
football player named Scott, who resided in Alpharetta, Georgia. The pair spoke for a while before Scott asked Casey to be his girlfriend, and having learned from the David debacle, she insisted that Scott send her a picture. Minutes later, an email arrived in Casey's inbox. It was from Scott, and attached to it was a picture of a handsome teenage boy wearing a football uniform, and she was smitten. Then, on the morning
Did
of
you learn
December
nothing,
3rd,
girly?
2002, Casey's friend Sam noticed Scott's picture hanging in her locker. She was delighted to hear that Casey had found a boyfriend, but was dismayed to hear that it was another semi-anonymous online relationship.
Yeah,
Once again,
that's, I don't
Sam
know.
warned Casey of the dangers
I don't know
associated
about
with
that.
online strangers. Only this time, Casey became confrontational. She didn't appreciate her friend's attempt to mother her and accused Sam of toxic
But
jealousy
girl, this
before
already
storming
happened
off
to,
the
like,
class.
this is the thing. Am I crazy,
Without
or is
Casey's
that
knowledge,
wild because it already
Sam
happened to
approached
her?
their school's counselor to warn them of her reckless behavior. But rather than approach the situation delicately, Casey was dragged into the principal's office for a stern lecture on stranger danger. Casey insisted that she didn't give out any personal information, something we
doesn't
know was
matter.
false based on her phone conversations with David.
Like,
For some
it's
reason,
so
the teachers then
clearly
decided
that
to
other
bring Sam
guy.
into the office to out her as the one who'd warned them of Casey's behavior. She was furious, but hid her rage to convince teaching staff that the pair had reconciled. The two girls didn't talk for the rest of the school day, but just after the bell rang, Casey caught Sam in her locker, only to extend a very unusual invitation. Casey proposed the two girls have a sleepover that same evening, but since it was a school night, the proposal was almost completely out of the question. Sam declined for that very reason, only for Casey to extend the invitation to Jessica and then another friend.
Actually, instead of doing this
Both
white,
turned
because I
her
was just
down,
going to do a
and
white
although
and then we were
Casey
going to
wasn't
color it,
outwardly
but I
upset
think
about
we're
the
going to pick the
refusal,
color
she
now,
was clearly
and I'm
desperate
thinking
for
it's going to
some
be
company
this
that
blue
evening.
that's in the skirt.
A few hours later,
Which,
Casey
yes,
was
I
home
am
alone,
eye dropping
chatting
it
with Scott
because
on Yahoo
I
Messenger
have a
while
really hard
talking
time
with David on the
with
phone.
navy blue colors.
David told her that
When I
he
pick
had
them
a
on my
dying
color
aunt in
wheel, I kind of
Arkansas,
don't pick the
Casey's
right
home
one that I'm
state,
going with,
and
so
that he was
I'm
driving
eye
out to be
dropping
with her until
it.
she passed. Casey expressed her
I'm a
condolences and continued to chat with Scott until exactly
colorblind.
9:41
Just
p.m.
a little bit.
when the messages suddenly stopped. Casey's two brothers then returned home at 10:15 p.m. and 11:40 p.m.
I think that's a good
respectively,
color to
and
use
contacted
anyways.
their father after becoming concerned at her absence. Rick Woody then raced back home in his squad car and began looking for his daughter. The house showed no obvious signs of a disturbance or break-in, but gradually, Rick began to piece together a series of deeply disturbing clues.
That's it. That's it.
Casey's
Looking
reading
good.
glasses, which she used while operating her
Looking
computer, were
good.
inexplicably damaged, while her beloved Yorkshire Terrier appeared to be limping. Something happened in his home, and Rick was sure of it. It had been sudden, it had been violent, and his daughter was in the gravest of danger. Initially, Rick's law enforcement colleagues suggested that Casey had simply ran away. But any such suggestion was met with vehement denials, with Rick insisting his daughter was no more angst-ridden than the next teenage girl. What's more, she might have been liberal with who she was talking with online, but she wasn't foolish or disobedient enough to leave the house without telling him.
What do we think? What do we
Detectives
think,
then
chat?
noticed that
Does
all
it
of
look
Casey's
good?
coats and shoes
Does this
had been
slap?
left behind, and given
What the hell
she'd gone
happened up
missing on a
here?
night where temperatures dipped below freezing, it became
I
obvious
don't
that
think I meant
she'd
to
been
put this
abducted
up here.
against
I'm
her will.
erasing that.
A huge search effort was launched, with Arkansas State Police being joined by the FBI, dozens of volunteers,
I think
and
this
every law
slaps.
enforcement
I
agency
think
in the
it's good.
surrounding Faulkner County. Officers pored over the Woody's computer files, while questioning Casey's fellow students at Greenbrier Middle School. The FBI traced Scott's
I'm gonna do a
computer
little
to his
bit
home in
of
Georgia,
color,
only
but
to
we are gonna
discover that
call
he
it
was
soon. I'm
exactly
probably
who he
after
claimed to
this
be.
story will
His parents insisted
skedaddle,
that he
but
was
I'll
home
do a
at the
little
time
bit
of
of
Casey's
color.
disappearance and had been worried about her following the
Color.
abrupt end of their conversation. As a result, he was cleared of all suspicion and became of great help to the overall investigation. When investigators learned that David had been on his way to Arkansas in the hours before Casey disappeared, they began to focus their search
Oh, I
around
forgot
the
the
immediate
line.
area
I
for
forgot a
clues
line
of
over
his
here.
location. At a nearby Motel 6, uniformed officers discovered a 1993 Buick Regal with California license plates, apparently belonging to
There
a
we go.
man named David Fuller. Fuller had checked into the motel on December 2nd, having told the clerk that he was planning on a week's stay. He had also bitterly complained about the lack of reliable internet access in his room, something which raised a huge red flag with investigating detectives. Upon an initial search of Fuller's room, police found nothing of interest, but hidden away in the room's
Whoops.
closet, they soon found a trash bag containing a ski mask, camouflage clothing, and a pair of rubber gloves. When asked if they had any idea where Fuller might have gone, the desk clerk at the Motel 6 mentioned him asking about local rent-a-car businesses. Police officers drove out to every car rental place in a 20-mile radius. They quickly questioned the staff before moving on to the next, until finally, they found what they were looking for. A branch of Enterprise in nearby Conway had received a visit from a man acting very strangely indeed. Before signing the name David Fuller on the rental agreement of a silver Dodge minivan, police officers drove out to every car rental place in a 20-mile radius. They quickly questioned the staff before moving on to the next, until finally, they found what they were looking for. A branch of Enterprise in nearby Conway had received a visit from a man acting very strangely indeed. Before signing the name David Fuller on the rental agreement of a silver Dodge minivan, the man had paced up and down outside the dealership, chain-smoking and muttering to himself.
That's
When
weird.
the minivan was traced to a nearby self-storage facility, Detective Jim Barrett and 2 FBI agents drove out to investigate it around 6 p.m. on December 4th. When they arrived, one of the doors to the storage units was wide open. The silver Dodge minivan was inside, forward-facing, with its engine running. Detective Barrett approached the unit with his pistol drawn, but the moment he stepped inside, 2 deafening gunshots rang out. The officers scrambled for cover, barking at their suspect to come out with their hands up. No one responded. Reinforcements arrived shortly afterward. A heavily armed SWAT team poured out of an armored truck, surrounded the storage unit, and then stormed in with violent precision. There was no resistance. Fuller was lying inside the Dodge minivan. The second shot had blown his own brains out. The first had executed Casey.
Okay.
She was lying on her back in the rear of the minivan, which had been converted into a makeshift torture chamber. Her wrists and ankles chained to the floor, and she'd been violated excessively before her sudden execution. Police soon discovered that David Leslie Fuller was born in Salt Lake City, Utah, back in 1955. After marrying a woman named Sally Krenz, Fuller moved her out to coastal Mississippi, where he enlisted in the U.S. Navy. They later moved on to Maryland, had a son and a daughter, before finally settling in California. As the marriage went on, Fuller developed severe behavioral problems and began exhibiting wild mood swings.
Oh my.
His wife also noticed that he was spending an increasing amount of time online and would sometimes take walks around the neighborhood at night while talking on his phone. He also became increasingly defensive when asked who he was talking to, and Sally began to doubt that the nature of the calls were less than innocent. After his wife filed for divorce, Fuller moved into his own apartment in La Mesa, California, and was later arrested after violently attacking his wife and children. During the incident, Sally Krenz had locked herself and
this
the
turned
children
up
in
to
a
an
bedroom,
11 last
only
minute,
for her soon-to-be
100%.
ex-husband to take it off the
Without a
hinges with
doubt.
a screwdriver.
This just got
Following the arrest
wacky.
and the imposition of a restraining order, Fuller's life entered a sharp downward spiral. He was later detained on suspicion of exposing himself to 2 young girls and was later fired from his job as a used car salesman after being caught watching adult content on his work computer. Following his death, the FBI quickly obtained Fuller's personal computer. Its hard drive contained numerous pictures of Casey, along with a detailed list of her friends' names, their phone numbers, and their addresses.
Okay.
It also became apparent that from the winter of the year 2000, Fuller had attempted to groom at least 3 other girls in Casey's age group.
Ugh, this is
Thankfully,
gross.
None of these interactions led to a face-to-face meeting, but not for David's lack of trying. In one instance, he'd offered to pay for a girl in Michigan to fly out to California, and although she'd never given David her address, he somehow found a way to have flowers mailed to her family home.
Ugh.
Investigators also discovered that David had visited Casey's hometown twice during the fall of 2002, with the trips amounting to in-depth reconnaissance.
I don't think
Some
that's the
even
right color
theorized
here.
that David had been
Clip
inside
studio
the Woody's family home on the night Casey and Jessica detected an intruder, and if it wasn't for the unexpected presence of a friend, Casey would have been taken far earlier than December. Following the taking of his own life, David Fuller was cremated and interred at Wasatch Lawn Memorial Park in Mill Creek, Utah. Outlived by both his parents, they initially refused to believe reports of their son's crime. It was only later, when compelling
there's
evidence
so
was
much
presented to
evidence
them,
that
they
was
accepted
happening
the
there. I
monstrous
don't know
things
about
he'd
that.
done. Casey's funeral was held on December 9th of 2002 at South Crossroads Church Cemetery in Rosebud, Arkansas. After being laid to rest next to her mother, Casey's 2 friends, Sam and Jessica, delivered a brilliantly poignant but melancholy eulogy. When the 2 girls learned of their friend's death, they held each other and wept. Yet as they wept, it began to snow outside. Jessica recalled that in the days prior to her death, Casey had expressed a desire to see the snow that year. Its sudden appearance was no coincidence. It was Casey, reaching out to them from beyond the grave.
What is this end of the story?
For close friends.
The end of that was kind of odd. But yeah, no, that went like insanely wacky right at the end. Oh, whoopsie, that's not what I was supposed to be doing. Okay, I'm not going to start another one because I'm going to call stream in a little bit anyway. So just while I finish up the eyes, we'll just put on music. What are we going to listen to? It's probably not going to be like that long, but what do I want to listen to? We listen to some lo-fi. Y'all like Green Hill Zone lo-fi? Sure, we'll just listen to this. I literally just need to finish the eyes because if I don't, it will bother me. So I just want to finish them. So enjoy Green Hill Zone lo-fi real quick. Damn, hauntingly sad at the end. Yeah, that one was very sad right at the end, and like the whole build up, like the last bit of that was disturbing and sad. Also, you should watch, or Bacon, you're gonna watch Mr. Nightmare right after this. I think you should. I don't know what it is about these like scary story podcasts, but I just find them very interesting. But I also like watching true crime stuff too, so. Put the volume down just a little bit because I feel like it's very loud. The scary stories obviously want that to be loud, but we don't need the sonic lo-fi that loud. You obviously we gotta do the classic eye thing that I always do here, where the highlights are hearts. That's a staple of my drawing style, if you didn't know. My eyes have the same thing, if you can see them. I think this turned out like pretty sick. It looks really good so far. Like really good so far. Obviously I'm gonna have to do shading and whatnot, but I can do that on my own time. Base color, line art, everything like that. Looking peak. Looking freaking peak. We didn't get to work on the emotes today, but that's okay. We'll definitely work on these and I'll line this very soon. We'll have to do more of these streams. I always say that every time we do streams like this. And I mean it though, like I do mean it. I'm gonna save this before I sign off for the day. Drawing out the yippee. Still, you got some hella designed brows and lashes. Yeah, like, oh, hold on a second. We'll go here. I have the wrong background. I have the wrong background set up. Hold on. There we go. I was filming a card opening video earlier, so I have that background set up and not the proper one. Where's the chat? There's chat. Okay. I'm like, I had the complete wrong thing set up before. But no, I was gonna say, like, my face, if we take a good HD look at my face real quick, there's eyelashes on the top of my eyes. There's eyelashes on the bottom that are white eyelashes on the bottom. And then my eyebrows are like, they're thick eyebrows. Look at these thick eyebrows, everyone. And of course we have the slits shaved in the one, of course, because that's the cool thing to do. But yeah, that I will say that my model's face is very detailed, so I apologize, Bacon, but I appreciate you doing that because I think you're killing it so far. But I do have a very detailed face. Lots of, and then I have stickers too, and a band-aid on my face too, so there's that as well. Alright, folks, but I think that I'm gonna skedaddle for the evening. It's the gamer thing to do, having shaved brows, yeah, and I do it in real life too. Like, I usually try to shave one of my eyebrows, like the slits into one in my real life, but man, my eyebrows grow back so fast, sometimes it's not even worth it. I'm very bad at keeping it up because my eyebrows just be growing. It's like the thick eyebrow life. But yeah, I'm gonna peace out. I haven't posted my stream schedule for next week yet, obviously, because I usually post on a Monday. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to post it Monday or Tuesday. And just because I kind of have like a little bit of a busy day tomorrow because it's my birthday and I have stuff planned and stuff like that. But I will post my schedule as soon as I can. We should be having 2 Paper Mario streams next week, which will be fun. And then also, of course, Okami. And then probably, I don't know if we're going to do a shiny hunting one or not. I'll have to see. But I want to do like something else. So we're either going to do, well, I don't want to say that we're going to do another stream or something because we might only get the 3 in next week, unfortunately, because I have like a lot of other stuff that I'm doing during the week. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, thank y'all for coming and hanging out with me today, chilling and drawing. We got a lot of work done and it's chill. I always like these streams, so we'll have to do more of them, of course, in the future. But yeah, thank you for coming and hanging out. I hope that everybody has a wonderful rest of your Sunday. Take care, and I'll see y'all next week at some point, I'm sure. All right. Bye, 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 bye. See ya, see ya, see ya. Take care. Bye, 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 bye.